All right, everybody. Let's recreate. All right. Both. Okay. Vivian, thank you for your packet. Appreciate the review of all the various issues. Would you like to just start walking us through?
I'd be happy to. So for fiscal year 21 to 26, the executive is recommending a total of 12 ongoing and 2 new recreation projects totaling $116.9 million for the Department of Recreation. It's a decrease of $3.9 million from the amended fiscal year 19 to 24 program. The decrease is primarily due to completion of the Western County outdoor pool renovation and progress made with the South County Regional Recreation and Aquatic Center. 2 of the projects are North Bethesda Community Recreation Center and Kid Museum, reflect no expenditures during the 6-year period. And 3 projects, Kid Museum, Good Hope Neighborhood Recreation Center, and Western County Outdoor Pool, are in closeout or pending closeout status.
Okay, wait. So let's just clarify that. What does that mean? The projects that are active but reflect no expenditures during the 6-year period.
So I'm going to punt the Kid Museum to executive staff. We'll do briefing.
You just turned off your mic.
We'll have executive staff explain what that means related to the Kid Museum. We are going to discuss North Bethesda in the packet.
Okay, great.
So Anita Aite from OMB. So we do not publish closeout or pending closeout projects. If the project doesn't have any money in the 6th year, it doesn't mean that it's not active. It just means that there's no money in there.
But the money was there and it's still available.
It's still available.
Right.
It's available in all the financial reports that we publish, but it's just not in the current 6th year.
It's essentially in the slippage, in the unspent share
It's
of
in
the CIP.
FY20, yes.
And we have assumptions about, we book a factor for funding that we just don't expend for any number of reasons. Projects don't meet timelines or whatever. And it's essentially in there. Is that an accurate statement?
There is no change in the project cost. It's still the same.
So if the Kid Museum is successful in pinning down a step forward, then the door is open and please come back. And the amount of that money is?
It should be 6.89 million, right? From last year.
Well, the document in front of us says there's a couple different numbers.
Right, it says the community appropriation is $1 million. The total project amount was.
Vivian, your mic again.
I keep
I
doing
think you
that,
can just
sorry.
leave it on unless,
So it suggests that the cumulative appropriation for the project is $1 million. What was programmed total for fiscal year 20 was 10.85 million.
and that is the amount that's available.
The project cost is 10.85 million. That's the total cost. The appropriation just says this is what council has approved to be spent. And if this project becomes active, we'll come back for the extra appropriation.
Right. So they can come back for the extra appropriation at any time,
Yes,
up to the 10.
up to the 10 point.
And does that require that does require a CIP amendment to appropriate above
Yes.
$1 million? $1 million is there and does not require a CIP amendment?
The
But-
amount is not the trigger. It is when the project is active. If, for example, Kid Museum came.
Can you please speak a little closer?
I'm sorry. So if
There are
Kid
3 people
Museum-
watching at home who are very important to follow
So
that story.
if Kid Museum was ready to proceed in FY22, let's say,
Yeah.
we would, and they said we're going to spend all 10 million, we would appropriate the additional 9.8 million
Right.
to make the project whole.
And we don't need to then adjust the overall capital budget or anything. That is essentially water under the bridge.
For this project, yes,
Okay.
yes. And $3.9 million of the money is from Rockville.
Right. So be aware of that. That's listed as the intergovernmental. 3.920. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that clarification.
Okay, moving on then.
Moving on.
The PHED committee is going to be reviewing 9 projects in the recommended fiscal year 21 to 26 CIP. The ENC committee is scheduled to review the Public Arts Trust on February 24th, and components of the cost-sharing MCG will be scheduled for review according to the related issue areas. So on the table on page 2 of your packet shows the 9 recommended CIP projects for the department that the committee is going to review, including project and 6-year CIP period totals. Of the 9 projects, 4 projects have program construction funding, and these are actually all aquatics related. South County Regional Recreation Aquatic Center, Martin Luther King Jr. Indoor Swim Center, Kennedy Shriver Aquatic Center envelope improvement, and swimming pool slide replacement. 2 projects have only planning and design funding program, the recreation facility modernization and recreation facilities refurbishment. 2 projects have only other funding program, wall park, garage, and park improvements, and the shared agency booking system replacement. And 1 project has no program funding during the 6-year CIP period, North Bethesda. We had just referenced that. There's also a table on page 3 of your packet that shows the different operating budget impacts for the construction-related projects that have those impacts. And we also note on page 3 the projects under facility planning, MCG, the umbrella county government project. There are facility planning studies mentioned for the Bethesda Regional Community Recreation Center and Tacoma Park Pool Adventist Partnership. However, executive staff has updated us to let us know that the Tacoma Park project is no longer under consideration.
That was the one that was potentially on the hospital property. Right.
Right. And then there's one facility, the North County Regional Recreation and Aquatic Center, which is a candidate project under the Facilities Site Selection MCG project. Council received a housing and child care assessment, which was conducted for the Bethesda Regional Community Recreation Center project. The analysis concluded that the project's compatibility would need to be determined when a site is identified.
Okay, sorry, where are you exactly?
I'm on page 3, and there's just a little update on housing and child care assessments.
Yes.
And that
And those are at circle 22, 23.
23 is the assessment for the Bethesda Regional Community Recreation Center.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to review of projects. The 4 recreation projects with construction funding, again, are all related to the department's aquatics program. There's 1 new project, which is the South County project. But aside from that, the other 3 projects address the aging aquatics infrastructure in the county. All of the department's indoor aquatic facilities have systems that have reached or are approaching the end of their functional lives. It's been challenging for the department to schedule work on these aging and heavily used facilities, so they've needed to avoid concurrent or lengthy closures that would disrupt their aquatics programming, which would affect many users. So they've made efforts to schedule work during summer months when outdoor swimming facilities are available. And the timely completion of the South County facility will then provide needed capacity to allow extended time for the other facilities that need renovation or remediation. So that's the first project that we're going to talk about is South County. The total recommended project cost is $72,072,000. The total 6-year amount is $47,039,000. There's no cost change, which is recommended for the fiscal year 21 to 26 CIP. There's no appropriation requested for fiscal year 21, but there is an estimated $1.015 million estimated appropriation for fiscal year 22. This project, again, provides a new regional recreation, senior, and aquatic center in the central business district of Silver Spring, co-located with the HOC Elizabeth Square Mixed Income Multi-Generational Mixed-Use Project. The project commenced in the fall of 2019 and is scheduled to be completed over approximately 36 months. The county's partner, HOC, is the general contractor and responsible for project delivery, though the county is closely monitoring construction projects as the timing of completion of this facility will impact plans to renovate other county aquatics facilities. And thus, council staff recommends approval of the executive's recommended PDF.
So that's DGS that's monitoring the construction progress, is that right, Director Dice?
Yes, David Dice, Director, Department of General Services. Yes, I have an entire staff of folks that work with HOC, its architects, and the general contractor to make sure that we are on track. I also, in turn, meet with the principals, Mr. Spann, and the general contractor on a monthly basis to make sure any issues that could pop up that require senior decision-making are resolved quickly. And so, yeah, things so far are on track, on schedule. An awful lot of dirt is being moved, and some of the utility work has begun. When we met last week, and I talked to my staff earlier this week, everything was continuing as planned. We have a staff architect as well as a construction rep that will periodically go by the site and are routinely talking to the HOC staff.
Okay. All right. Just a bookmark. I would like to follow up at some point in the next 6 months or so and review how this went and get a chance to hear from you about, this might be a good example for us to understand the county's permitting process and to the extent to which, any improvements that we might be able to make.
Happy to do it.
All right. Let's do that.
Okay.
Comments on this one? Andrew.
Thank you. Thanks for the update. I appreciate the update earlier on Kid Museum. That's reassuring that the money will be available when it's there, when it's needed. And I know there's ongoing conversations with Director Dice and Mr. Assant and others on moving forward on that, and a shared commitment with everybody in the county to make sure that we keep that and allow the growth that is needed to meet the educational and technology education needs of our kids and STEM needs of our kids. Did want to flag a couple things. One, KSAC, the Shriver Aquatic Center. I was just there the other day, and it was busting out the seams with activity, which is amazing. I think it's one of our most heavily utilized facilities in the county, meets a tremendous need. I would point out, as Director Dice, you have shared with me, as Ms. Riley, you have shared, this is not a North Bethesda facility. This is a county facility that happens to be centrally located in North Bethesda. I had casual conversations with folks asking where they were from, and everybody had a different place. So it was not, it's not a neighborhood rec center or aquatic center, to say the least. Just wanted to get a quick update of that. Given the usage, given how much need there is both from our aging adult population, which is tremendously used, but also our swimming population, our young population, could you just walk through what the operational side of that is going to be during construction, and whether there's going to be times where any activities are closed, shut down, impacted in a significant way for an extended period of time?
Well, as Ms. Yao pointed out, the timing of these things is critical. And as you've observed, KSAC's aggressive and very active nature requires that it has a supplement while we're in there, because the nature of the work that we're going to be doing at Kennedy Shriver requires us to close the facility, which is why it has to follow the South County Aquatic Center's opening, because all of that activity will, for a period of time, transfer to South County at Silver Spring, because, again, the nature of the work that we have to do, I'm opening walls, I'm opening roofs, I'm cutting holes in walls to put in windows, I'm basically stripping the facility down to its skeletal structure and rebuilding it.
How long do we expect that to take? How long is the disruption?
I believe that is a
Start in 21, finish in 23?
24, yeah, it's a 24-month project. It is an extensive rebuilding of the aquatic center.
Okay. And hopefully we'll be working with REC on that to figure out the timing to make sure that it's at the least disruptive point in time based on seasons, based on peak usage for the aging adult population, just so that we can cause as little disruption as possible. I recognize the need that this work has to be done for safety reasons and for structural integrity reasons. So, but it's obviously a very heavily used facility, and this is going to cause a significant disruption for a lot of people in the mid-county and up-county who use Shriver. Going to South County to Silver Spring is a huge difference, could change a 15, 20-minute commute to a hour and a half commute, back and forth, depending on traffic and time of day. So,
absolutely, we're going to work very closely together. Sorry, Robin Riley, Director of Recreation Department. It will be a significant impact, no matter how hard we try it not to be, and we'll do our best. That building is heavily used, and we do have a pool in Germantown, another in Albany, and Martin Luther King, so we'll do our best to sort of share the load based on the program elements, but South County will really help us with doing that for this length of time.
spread it out. Great. And if you could just use us to disseminate that information as well, and hopefully we can get out in front as quickly as possible. I know the Recreation Department will be doing this with your folks, but if you could please just make sure that as early we can get that information as possible to share it with folks so that it doesn't come abruptly. I think that will help. A couple other things. One, I just wanted to get a confirmation on Wall Park, the delay on the...
Wait, is this a different, you're jumping around here a fair amount.
Yeah, with the order,
We have a packet.
I'll wait. I'll wait. Sorry.
Eager councilman.
Yeah. Can I talk about Bethesda Rec Center? Because you mentioned Elizabeth Square and you mentioned Bethesda. You want me to wait for that?
well,
We have
it's
moved
up to the chair
through
if he
that.
wants to
if
go
you
through
want.
all
Okay.
those at once, that's fine with
You can say something about that. Are we bringing that up?
No, I was just going to
separately
thank you
from-
on that piece, and I'm hopeful on the Bethesda piece that we can identify a site similar to Elizabeth Square, because I think that has proven to be a terrific project that we're all excited about.
Right, and Councilmember and I have talked extensively about this, and it's also similar to Kid Museum. We're looking for the right opportunity, and we'll jump on it when it presents itself.
Right. I thank you for that from the staff level. Thank the county executive for that, and I look forward to working together on that, and I'll hold the Wall Park question for later.
All right. So we are in,
we're on
moving
page
on to
5.
MLK pool?
Yeah.
All right.
So that project, the PDF is at circle 11 of your packet. The executive is recommending a total project cost of $13.472 million. That's an increase of $1.319 million from the fiscal year 19 to 24 CIP. That results mainly from project phasing, which I'll describe in a second. The total 6-year amount is $10.320 million for the 6-year period. The recommended funding source is GO bonds. There's no appropriation requested for fiscal year 21 and an estimated fiscal year 22 appropriation of $1.419 million. Again, this project is to remediate basically building components and systems at the end of their useful life and make sure that the facility continue to provide service. The project was originally scheduled to be under construction between April through October of 2019, but because of coordination work with various county level of effort projects, all the work for the project did not occur during that time frame. Instead, the facility closed during the summer months to do some work, and the department has been working with DGS in a phased approach to schedule work needed with minimal disruption to users. So they're doing what they can while the facility is open, and then deferring the work that requires extensive closure. Although the PDF states that design work would begin in summer 2020 and construction would be scheduled from winter 2022 for a period of 1 year, again, construction work on the facility has taken place when the facility was shut during the summer and is ongoing. The work yet to be completed is described on page 5 of your packet. As far as recommendations, council staff recommends supporting inclusion of the project in the fiscal year 21 to 26 CIP, but requesting or information to update the expenditure table to accurately reflect the amounts to be expended in fiscal years 21 to 24. Again, this information was requested from the executive, but that wasn't available at the time of packet publication.
Yeah, this packet, it came out pretty late. Was this, we weren't getting information over from rec? What was going on?
Again, it's trying to write while you're getting information and things like that. So we did get information, but then there was follow-up questions about various items, and so that kind of caused the timing of the packet.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Thank you. So on MLK, another highly used facility, know that firsthand. Why the shutting down in August for the roof? It says here that, I know that you have to fix the roof there, and just could you explain to me the timing with the usage period? Obviously, that would normally be a high usage month.
Well, yes, this as well as the Olney Swim Center, a lot of similarities, very heavily used facilities, but when they're closed for a definitive period of time, and I have that work that requires some extensive repair oftentimes goes over that. For instance, when we went in and did, and what we do is we typically go in and do preliminary investigations, sort of triage to determine the extent of what needs to be done and how it will be done. And we've identified in the case of Martin Luther King as well as Olney, when we get there, that in order to do some of the ADA improvements, which requires connecting lift chairs to the patio deck, we found that the patio deck was deteriorating and insufficient. And in the process of that investigation, we found that some of the piping underneath the patio deck was galvanized and had corroded to the point where it was essentially blocked. So
gift that
that
keeps on
needs to
giving.
be replaced.
Yeah, okay.
And so to do all of that work alone is 6 months. But the facility is closed only between Memorial Day and Labor Day, which gives us a window of probably realistically 6 to 8 weeks because of mobilization and demobilization. So some of that work has to be postponed until Recreation has other facilities that can supplement the extended closure, and we're working with Recreation to do that so that we can extend what are typically the summer pools, extend a little bit into the fall
pick
for
up
some of
the-
that
okay.
activity. Other work, as Vivian has mentioned, we've gone in and done the flat roof structure at MLK. We already went in and did that because that was work we could do while the facility was in use. However, the sloped roof, the peaked roof at MLK, it's a 35-year-old building. It has deteriorated, including the underlayment of the roof, to the point that we're going to have to strip it down to the rafters and rebuild it. And we're going to try and get all of that done in about 4 weeks. We can get it to the point that it is watertight, then it's not affected by the opening. We can come back and do shingling and sheeting while the facility is being used. So we're carefully programming those things that we can do in that narrow closure window, and everything else we're coming in and doing it while the facility is in use.
So when will it will be closed when? You're figuring it out.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
we're going to try to do the same thing that we did last summer.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, we're working closely with DGS in terms of the scheduling and maybe extend a little bit longer just to get some of the work done, because the slope of the deck is more extensive work inside, so that will take a little bit.
Where did you funnel? How did that work with the funneling or direction of people to other outdoor pools? How did that work last summer?
It actually, because there is an outdoor pool at MLK,
Right, so
it
you
was
can still use
it was
that.
pretty easy, actually. I mean, it is while all of our pools, all of them, are extremely busy. That is a little slower time because our swim teams our high school swim teams are not in and practicing.
yeah.
Our RMSE teams are swimming in their summer teams at the outdoor pools. So it is mostly the lap swimmers and the fitness level classes and the instruction that we can shift to the outdoors by expanding some hours there as well. So it worked out really great. I mean,
Okay, good.
it was significantly helpful.
Thank you.
If I can add, it's written in the packet but wasn't highlighted. A lot of this started as we looked at these facilities for energy savings improvements. And so, again, that work we're doing in conjunction with the other work. We've already installed, for instance, a combined heat and power system at MLK that will use the heat generated in the facility to create power. And we're also looking at installing under yet another effort through our Energy and Sustainability Division, putting in solar canopies across all of the parking lots and the roof of that facility, to the point that from an energy demand standpoint, not from a carbon standpoint because that would be too expensive, from an energy demand standpoint, that facility should be self-sustaining when we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's keep going. Swimming
Okay.
pool slide replacement?
We didn't go over the specifics in terms of the numbers with the KSAC, the Kennedy Shriver Aquatic Center. There was some
Okay.
discussion about, the work there, but I'd just like to go over those pieces really quickly. The executive is recommending $28.289 million for the project and it's $27.89 million over the 6-year period. The source is GEO bonds. There's no appropriation requested for fiscal year 21 and an estimated 22 appropriation of $18.954 million. The cost change from the approved project is $19.853 million. And Mr. Dice already talked a little bit about the change in the scope of the project and the need to really kind of strip the exterior down because of findings that they had when they did the design evaluation, that the necessary repairs really exceeded the original scope. They found that out, I think, at late 2018. So that's just an updated estimate of what the facility will cost. In addition to those addressing the masonry walls and roof leakage, because the systems are all and equipment are at the end of their useful life, the project will also replace the HVAC and pool equipment and address ADA compliance. So you've talked about the schedule for the project. Beyond that, council staff had recommended approval of the recommended PDF.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next project is the swimming pool slide replacement project. This is a new project, the new level of effort project, which provides a structured process to ensure safe pool operations through the repair and or replacement of slides. The total project cost is $12.795 million, $9.449 million during the 6-year period. Funding source is GEO bonds. The recommended fiscal year 21 appropriation is $1.453 million. The estimated fiscal year 22 appropriation is $1.503 million. The department is doing an initial assessment to evaluate the needed level of repair and replacement of all the slides and then creating a priority list. And that assessment is taking place actually during this fiscal year, and the repair and the funding for the assessment is coming out of the Recreation Facility Modernization Project. Then the repair and replacement work will be funded out of this project beginning in fiscal year 21. Council staff again recommends approval of this PDF as recommended by the executive. These are popular features in aquatic facilities and pools, and the poor condition, again, may create safety issues if they're left unaddressed.
All right, sounds fine.
Okay, the next project, we're going to projects with planning funding programmed in the fiscal year 21 to 26 period. The first one is the Recreation Facility Modernization Project. The total project cost is $350,000. The total 6-year cost is $150,000. Funding source is $300,000 in current revenue, $49,000 in PAYGO, and $1,000 in GEO bonds. The requested fiscal year 21 appropriation is $50,000. This provides for planning and renovation of recreational facilities. The project supports the POR development for the Schweinhaus Senior Center and Clara Barton Neighborhood Recreation Center. It does not provide for the entire amount of funds needed to renovate those facilities. Once POR is developed and project moves forward, then they will become standalone projects. The Gwendolyn Caulfield Community Recreation Center was listed in this project in the fiscal year 1920 for approved project, but it's not listed moving forward. The executive staff explained that it was determined that the needs at Caulfield are more consistent with refurbishment as opposed to renovation, meaning, not a complete tear down and rebuild, and that it would be reprioritized in the recreation facility refurbishment project that you'll hear about next.
Okay.
So, again, funding from fiscal year 20 in this project supported the assessment of the different slides, and the amount was $89,000. It's not clear to council staff what the appropriation of $50,000 in current revenue in fiscal year 21 will support, as it suggests that Schweinhout will be considered in 23, and then Clara Barton in 25 or 24. So before approving this project, the committee may want to hear about what the funding in 21 will be supporting.
All right. Robin?
Probably more of a DGS
Okay.
question
David?
than myself.
Oh, way to punt.
Yeah, nice. I am rec, right? My understanding in talking through this, I'm actually kind of new to CIP, so forgive me.
Can you move the mic a little
Yeah,
closer?
sure. What my understanding of this is to actually go in and do an assessment of those buildings and really determine the scope and need. Those buildings are very old, very unique in terms of multifaceted aspects inside the building. And so that's my understanding what that project money is for.
For which buildings?
For
Schofield
specific,
and-
right, specifically
Barton?
for the
Schweinhout
Right.
and Clara Barton.
Claire Barton, as we actually, we don't need to do this so much with Caulfield because my people have been in there so much, we know exactly what Caulfield needs. But, and we're going to run into the same thing when we approach the next project, which is the refurbishment. The lessons that we've learned through the library refresh and refurbishment process is that we don't want to go in and make assumptions about what work needs to be done. So we literally go in and put some holes in walls and try and figure out exactly what the nature of the work is so that we're spending taxpayers and bondholders' money more sensibly. So this is to go in and do some forensic analysis and research into the facilities.
Schweinhout and Clara Barton.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so if the committee is okay with that explanation, we'll move on to
So wait,
recre-
all right. What is your analysis here? You're saying there's still a gap?
Well, what was not clear is what was happening in 21.
Because it says the Schweinhout and Barton are happening in 23 and 24.
Right. So I think that what I'm hearing is that the development of the PORs for those projects will take place then, but that prior to that time, DGS is going to be doing some initial work in 21. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what we want to do. Again, we have to go in and do an assessment, and then we begin the work. It's scattered out across the time period, but we have to go in, assess what needs to be done, and then with this funding, we can go in and do this. These are simply modernizations. They are not extensively, as Robin mentioned a moment ago, these are not extensive refurbishments. These are, the intent here is to just go in and do some modernization of each of these facilities. So we go in, determine what the feeds are, what the necessary improvements are, and then are prepared to go and do them. So I believe Schweinhout is first on the list. Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, that's correct. It's kind of the same model, I think, that we did with Kennedy Shriver. Like, we went in and tried to look at the envelope and determine the scope, and then come back and finish the project.
So does that mean the numbers could change here? In the out years?
I don't believe so. I think that always reserve the right to come back and say, boy, guess what we discovered. But no, these are typical, the work done here is fairly typical. And again, if we find something in particular, if it became more serious, as it is with Caulfield, it would roll over to the refurbishment. These are low-cost modernization efforts.
But the modernization will be more than $50,000, right?
Yes.
Right. So the $50,000 in FY23 and FY25 is,
Right, well, we have to go in, do the assessments, then come back and determine what needs to be done, and that's when we come back with the hard estimates.
And so the 50,000 in 21 is to go in and do the
Schweinhout.
assessment.
Yes.
And what are the costs that, what does that look like? That going in, how does that typically spent? Like, is that typical the amount? Is that just a plate? That's what you spend, or is this?
It's a placeholder that allows us to go in. We have staff, consultants, consult with other technical staff regarding connectivity, utility systems for computer connectivity and things of that sort. So it's a placeholder. As you can see, that's why it's shown consistent across each of these facilities every other year.
Okay. Obviously, if you can save, you'll save, you know.
Obviously. Someone's got to pay for the DGS picnic each year.
Right, yeah, okay.
Well, that's the, yeah, exactly. All right, I don't know, maybe, well, let's continue. All right.
So the next project is the Recreation Facilities Refurbishment Project. It's a new level of effort project which provides for a structured process to ensure that the recreation facilities are refurbished through repair or replacement of facility components. The total
430.
project cost is $9 million, which is $9 million over the 6-year period. Source is GEO bonds. There's no requested fiscal year 21 or estimated fiscal year 22 appropriation. There will be a facility assessment that will be conducted to evaluate the level of repair or replacement for each facility, and then they will create a program of requirements with an associated construction cost estimate. The project is put in place to ensure that the county's capital investments are protected by maintaining recreation building infrastructure, addressing new required construction codes, overhauling or replacing critical equipment and building systems prior to failure, recognizing internal space to ensure space utilization based on the community's needs for programs and services. The schedule is kind of odd for a level of effort project in that it doesn't begin design or that work until fiscal year 24. Executive staff has said that the delay results mainly from affordability issues. Again, because this is really addressing like deteriorating conditions of recreation facilities and adequate systems and things like that. Council staff recommends
Accelerating that?
Yeah.
Is it the 2, 1, and 6 just moves into 21, 22, 23? Is that what you recommend?
Yeah, yeah. Again, subject to available funding at reconciliation, but.
Everything is. If we were to do that, is that feasible?
Well, I'm going to have to defer to management and budget. A lot of this is adjusted based upon resource allocation and affordability.
Right. I mean, I guess is there a practical reason why you couldn't do it?
Can the work be done? Sure, the work can be done. I mean, again, this is very much like what we've done very successfully with the libraries. So could the work be done? Sure, it could be done. But again, everything is balanced on a resource allocation.
Yes, and just to point out that as with everything else in the CIP, the request came in front-loaded, and so and the CIP was cut also by $142 million from the last 6 year. So we're trying to balance all the requests that came in pending affordability. So any choices we make, moving, accelerating projects, we have to make a choice to delay something else.
Sure,
Yep.
but that's the exercise that council is engaged in.
That's
as well,
the
right?
budget process. You got it. I mean, I'm certainly open to accelerating it. That's a fair amount of money, $2 million in FY21. That's not a small amount of money. So I don't know if we can think about like a tentative. We have to see all the committee recommendations and what we're looking at overall, I feel like. So
I would just add for us 21, we're already in the planning stages for programming elements in 21, so we have to consider the program impact
Right.
for the scope of work and have a timing planned out for it.
I mean, maybe we can at least move it to like 23 and see, inch it forward now, 22? You like 22? Vivian's
22
going
would
for
be better
22.
than 23.
All right, I'm just a little worried because we're way down in 22, and we got a heavy lift in those years. But sure,
We can see what,
We'll see what works.
Yeah.
22. Sound good to my colleagues? All right.
Sure.
Let's give it a shot.
The other item is, again, just considering prioritizing the work at Caulfield. Because it's going to be going,
I thought that's what we meant when we were just.
okay.
This is a general category. I see.
right. And I understand that Caulfield is going to have ADA compliance work scheduled.
Yes, that's actually covered under our ADA level of effort project, and that work's already planned. Just a note about Caulfield, the principal major systems that have caused some of the failures in the past have already been addressed. Facility, we actually purchased that, and there's an awful lot of errors made in that building. It predates me, but I've certainly become very familiar with it.
I'm sure it does.
The attic of the facility, which is where all of the heating and cooling and plumbing is, was uninsulated.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that was not very bright. But so we've been in that building quite a bit and done a lot of repairs. As far as, and I would defer to Rec as far as prioritization. We're not certainly dismissing the fact that Caulfield needs yet more work, but some of the critical components that caused the inconveniences and shutdowns of programs of the whole facility have been substantially addressed.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, Caulfield has had some significant work done over the last couple of years due to some major construction issues, and it doesn't predate me.
Yeah. So just the staff, why considering that, what's the interest in moving it up?
Again, it was listed in Recreation Facilities Modernization, and it was added in the last CIP, because there was critical concern about it. Taking it off of that project and then kind of leaving it hanging, I know the council's gotten testimony and correspondence about the project, and there is a level of expectation in the community that something's going to happen to the project.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of our buildings are older, and it would not fall off the list for sure. And we are working really closely with the community on that.
Are you saying that Caulfield that no longer needs a renovation? That work is done?
No, I'm
or
not saying that at all.
Not saying that.
Now, what we're saying is that the systems that were causing the previous closures and shutdowns
Those have been addressed.
Have been addressed. It was also a subject of review with the Littonsville Master Plan
Yeah.
and impact on the Caulfield Center, which is why it rose to a higher level of
Yeah.
prominence a year or two ago.
All right. Well, I think we should prioritize it, and I think that's a good reason for that. And so we'll try to get that money into 22, and hopefully that'll be the priority, and you can put it on that schedule.
Great.
Thank you, David.
And so going on to projects with other funding programmed in fiscal year 21, the Shared Agency Booking System Replacement Project recommends a total of $1.377 million with $415,000 over the 6-year period in fiscal year 21. The recommended funding sources are $917,000 in current revenue and $460,000 in intergovernmental transfers. There's no requested fiscal year 21 or estimated fiscal year 22 appropriation. It's a collaboration with COP and Montgomery Parks to replace their shared online booking and sales software application to improve efficiency and customer experience. The department continues to work collaboratively with the two agencies to secure a new shared booking system. DTS hired a project manager to oversee the project, and an RFP has been completed and will be issued by the Office of Procurement on or about February 3rd. It's anticipated the system will be selected and implemented during fiscal year 22. Council staff recommends approval.
Okay. Sounds fine.
Okay, wall park, garage, and park improvements. The total recommended for the project is $6.612 million, $5.506 million in the 6-year period. Recommended funding source is GEO bonds. There's no recommended fiscal year 21 or estimated fiscal year 22 appropriation, and no cost change from the approved fiscal year 19 to 24 project. The project relocates surface parking for Wall Park and the KSAC to adjacent property owned by the Gables Development. The Gables is building a garage. 250 of the spaces there will be owned by the county through a condominium arrangement, and the county has an option to purchase another 150 county spaces to serve the KSAC and a possible future regional recreation center. The planning staff has indicated the county has until December 1st, 2026 to exercise this option. This executive has received no information about Gables and the beginning of their development. And currently, I think the funding for the project has been pushed out to fiscal years 24 to 25.
Yep, Andrew?
Thanks. On this, appreciate it. It's next to KSAC, which is why I mentioned it before, and it's basically the parking for KSAC. So I apologize for going out of order. I hadn't had enough time to familiarize myself with the packet, as noted by the chair. The 24 to 20, I'm familiar with this issue. Last year we asked if this moves forward, is the money going to be available? I want to ask the same question now. If the project moves forward, obviously this is based on timing out of our control, and so this is really just a commitment and a guesstimate, I would presume. Could you just confirm that the funding will be available for the parking when it's needed based on what's currently reflected in the CIP?
Yes, the money will be available. Yes.
Right. And then for the additional option, do we think that the delay as currently constituted, the 2026 timeline for the option to purchase those parking spaces, do we think that has, that will have any impact? Are we at the point now where we need to be thinking about that, or maybe next year we assess and look at whether we want to negotiate an extension to that timeline based on where the project currently stands?
I think given where everything stands schedule-wise, there's no imminent pressure to do anything. Right now, there's crickets from Gables. Nothing's happening. And we have a project schedule for KSAC. I don't believe there's anything that needs to be decided upon at this time.
Well, I'm very hopeful they're going to be moving forward. I talk to them on a regular basis, and I just want to make sure that it's available when it's needed. We're doing a lot of other work in the Pike District to try to spur development and try to realize that vision, the Gables being one piece, but a very important piece, and one that's obviously linked to this. The chair and I both have been working quite a bit on Pike District specifically in ways on the infrastructure side, but also on the placemaking and other sides. I appreciate the work that the county executive as well is doing on this, the interest that he has. The additional spaces, can I just clarify? Are the additional spaces, whether or not they are needed for the park and for KSAC, would those additional spaces be for a potential North Bethesda Rec Center if it's sited there? Could you just clarify specifically what the action item would be based on exercising the option or not?
Yeah, the additional spaces would be for the rec center.
Okay, I want to yield. Should I wait on my comment questions on the rec? Because all these projects are related. That's why I brought them up. Yeah, the North Bethesda Rec Center.
You can talk about that now. It's next item.
Okay, yeah. So next item is the North Bethesda Rec Center. This is a 20-year in the making project that was committed to the community. I think it originally appeared in the FY 1 to 6 CIP, not 21 to 26 for those keeping score at home, 1 to 6. So we're just a couple decades behind the commitment that's been made. I really do think there is tremendous need here and that we need to move forward. And I'm just a little bit concerned that we keep punting this. And, I'm not sure what we're waiting for. Originally, it was comments were made, I believe, in previous CIP about waiting for development to take place. Now it's just about affordability. I'm sure in the next one there'll be some other rationale for it. And I just want to make a hard push here for, one, the fact that if we're going to do this and we're going to exercise that parking, once that goes away in 2026, that's going to make that more infeasible and more challenging and more expensive to be able to figure out how we meet those needs. And number two, like I said, this is an area of significant need. It would serve a community, from an equity standpoint that lacks adequate access to recreational facilities beyond the pool. And it's a commitment that was made that is, 20 years in the making, and even if we started today, it would be 25 years in the making with no light at the end of this tunnel. So I am hopeful that we can be collaborative in our efforts to figure out how to move forward on this from a specific standpoint with this particular project. And I am additionally hopeful beyond that, while I understand the affordability challenges that this CIP and most capital budgets present, I think we do have a real problem with setting expectations in the community and failing miserably to fulfill those commitments within a reasonable time frame. That's not reflective of this county executive. It's not reflective of this particular leadership in each department. That is a problem that we have frequently run into, and I think that it really does challenge us in county government to get the trust of the community when we fail to deliver so frequently on the commitments that we've made. So I'm just hopeful that we all can be mindful of that on this side of the street and on the other side of the street, because I think we have, in this case and in many others, have made commitments and have not followed through on our commitment to them, and I think we need to.
Thank you. I certainly agree. I think that we've got to get some of the more basic infrastructure in this area built. And we're putting a lot of money to that, and we need to make that happen. So with Wall Park, we're just waiting for Gables. So are they, since you've talked to them recently, what have they told you? When are they moving forward?
Well, I very proudly hosted a meeting with all of the stakeholders last week in the Pike District to talk about how we move forward broadly, and I am hopeful and convinced that they are getting ready. So,
well, they ought to. There's no point in us having money in the budget if they're not moving forward. I mean, that is money we can allocate to other projects, and that's kind of been my concern about this particular item all along. Is we can match them at any time when they move forward, but why should we put our money out before they do? Let's get them get going. But
it's got to be available, though. All I will say is this is a commitment, another commitment that was made to the community, and that funding needs to be available when it happens, or else the whole thing falls apart, because we're literally taking a surface parking lot and turning it into a park. That meets our environmental goals. That meets our urbanization goals. I mean, there's a lot more into this than just one small piece. This is a major parks priority. This is a major county priority. This is a major local priority and community priority. And I just think the money's got to be available when it's ready. Obviously, there's lots of things out of our control. The CIP is filled with unexpected delays and cost overruns. I'm not justifying them, but just saying that is, unfortunately, I don't envy you, Mr. Dice, the nature of the beast that you try to tame every day. But I think that this money absolutely has to be there when we're ready, and I think that Wall Park is a key part. I think that the rec center is too, but I think Wall Park is a key part as we talk about infrastructure, we talk about placemaking, as we talk about quality of life, as we talk about the fulfillment of the commitments that we've made to create the livable, walkable, accessible, urbanizing community in the Pike District. I think this really is a central part of that.
No question about that. I mean, that's why I have supported putting it in, but I am frustrated that they're not moving forward. And, I think that they need to fish or cut bait or something. I don't know. It's just not a good situation for us to be allocating funding for something that's not moving forward. All right. I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, so there's nothing you want to do differently?
I'm not doing anything differently at this point, but I'm going to keep my eye on that, and maybe I'll talk to them and find out what's going on. I know we're going to be looking to fund a lot of other projects in the White Flint area, and there's not a lot of money to go around. So
that would be my concern too, is just a lot of need. This is important, but a lot of things are important. So we have to weigh that, but nothing right now.
All right, let's move on to the next item. Thank you. HOC. come on down. Welcome back. I think you were here 24 hours ago. All right. Hi, Linda. Why don't you walk us through the packet? We've got Stacy Spann and Kareen Brown, Terry Fowler. All right, and Pofin Salem. Okay, great.
The HOC CIP actually is all ongoing projects. The executive has fully funded HOC's request, so we're pretty straightforward on this part of HOC CIP needs. But I'll just take you quickly through so you can get an update on a couple things. The first project is the demolition fund. This is money that the county has already given part of, but they're sharing in the cost, the county's sharing in the cost of the demolition of the Ambassador, which is already mostly down, and then Emery Grove, and this is really the completion of the payment to HOC. So I would recommend approval, and I just didn't know if you get a really brief update from HOC on the timing of the completion of demolitions.
First off, good afternoon. Stacy Spann, Executive Director of the Housing Opportunities Commission in Montgomery County, and with me is well, they can introduce themselves, but you know, this is the intellectual
Finance and
heft right
Budget
here.
Brain Trust.
Right there, you go. Best in the country, by the way.
Excellent.
Good afternoon. I'm Kareen Brown, Chief Investment and Real Estate Officer at HOC. Thanks for having us.
Welcome.
Terry Fowler, the Budget Officer. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Glad you're here.
So everyone's been wondering what's happening with the demolition of Ambassador first and then Emery Grove. So we started sort of fall of last year, finally demolishing the Ambassador, and there was a great deal of interior work first, and so that's continued. We expect it to be completely raised by the end of, well, I would say, early second quarter calendar year. But it's Swiss cheese right now, and so I think we can all agree that that's already
For like
some improvement.
asbestos or something? Is that why you have to do interior work before you demolish it?
Kareen?
So, unlike many other demolition, we could not have blown the whole thing up in one fell swoop. So it required a methodical floor-by-floor takedown of a building. The demolition contractor needed to remove the interior components first, and then undertake a floor-by-floor demolition of the building. And so that was just their strategy because of its location in near a residential neighborhood and other uses around it. Yeah.
Gotcha. They just didn't want to create clouds of
Right,
dust
right.
that cascade into the neighborhoods.
Correct.
I've noticed over the last couple of days, a lot has come down.
Yes.
I've just driven by it a couple times, so.
Yep.
You know.
Try by some more.
Did you get all your stuff out?
Yeah,
Good.
that was the home to my campaign office, so it was kind of a tear went down my eye, but.
Did it really? a
Not
tear?
real- not really.
Okay.
No,
Maybe
rain.
wondering where the rats are going. That's what I was wondering, you know.
The Silver Spring Aquatic Center is over where my office once was. So I guess if you get elected to the council, HOC will quickly demolish your former office. That's part of their strategy to do something. I don't know what. All right. Great. So the Ambassador is coming down. Is the sidewalk open? I know there's been quite a lot of discussion about that issue.
It is, so there's alternating times for it to be open. We obviously want it to be open when it's safe. And so when there's weekend pedestrian traffic, that sidewalk has been opened. During, of course, active demolition work, when there's a crew there, et cetera, then we're closing it for safety reasons. As Kareen pointed out, we're working within a pretty narrow space. If we were taking down the entire block, that'd be one thing, but the truth of the matter is, because of the tight site, we're taking every precaution, so.
Okay.
And
And
so-
Emery Grove?
Emery Grove is on a slightly different track. We expect a couple things. First thing is, it was approved during the same time period as Ambassador. We asked to push it out a bit because we still had active buildings. At this point, utilities, et cetera, have been pulled out of those buildings. However, we're boarding those buildings, and we're doing it principally because in its next life, whatever that site is, there's some possibility that we can actually reuse some of that infrastructure. And so we should have a better sense of what's happening there more precisely within the next 4 to 6 months. And so I realize that is a vague answer. It's intentionally vague. The bottom line is we want to reuse as much of the infrastructure as possible so that we're not having to create that all over again in its next life, in the site's next life.
Okay. All right, HOC County Guaranteed Bond Projects.
So these next three projects are long-standing assistance, financial assistance to HOC. The first one is the HOC Guarantee Bond Project. This is actually $50 million, which Bond Council has said needs to show in our capital budget. It would allow HOC to have the full faith backing of the county if it were to issue bonds for financing a project. They use this when it is most beneficial to them, but they don't use this one as often as some of the others. But as they use it, as they repay, it just revolves, and it has been in the CIP for many years.
It shows no expenditures. Does that mean that there's no
The way that these
Payments?
show, none of them show expenditures because it's really all been expensed a long time ago, but Bond Council has said that we need to show these funds in the CIP. And so they've
Gotcha.
shown this way for many years.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next one is another revolving fund, and HOC is authorized to use up to $12.5 million at any one time, and they use this money for interim financing of MPDUs or for planning and acquisition. And again, this is a revolving fund. This one originally had, a long time ago, a source of funds of a combination of GO bonds and current revenue, but again, that's been expensed a long time ago. So HOC is always able to use whatever the balance is in this revolving fund, but it doesn't need to show specific expenditures in the 6 years or have any more appropriation. And the third one is.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
On that one, and anyone who's can answer that, it says once there's permanent financing, the monies are returned to the fund. How does that typically? Can you run me through like a timeline of how that typically works? And
Sure. So for the most part, HOC typically returns monies drawn on both of the, well, there are two of them, but on the MPDU Property Acquisition Fund, typically within a 24-month time frame. However, there are times when, because of the planning process and length of time it takes to bring a project to closing on the vertical financing, the draw on the facility may be out for longer periods. For example, the Ambassador, we drew about $1.6 million some time ago, and it has been outstanding and will be repaid when the financing of the construction occurs. There are times, however, when the Commission authorizes use of that facility for specific things. For example, with the acquisition of the Bonifant property in downtown Silver Spring that's currently used as a service center, we knew going in that the repayment of that facility will be over several years, and so that will be outstanding for some time. But for the most part, we typically try to repay this facility within a 24-month time frame.
there's no requirement on a time frame. That's just typically what happens.
For MPDUs, if it's used for MPDUs, it's typically 24 months. And for MPDUs, because of the purchase and resale of MPDUs under the old law before it was amended recently, they were repaid within the 24-month time frame anyway. But for other types of uses, such as for multifamily planning and land acquisition, while a development plan is being executed, it's usually a little bit longer than 24 months.
Okay.
And the resolution and explanation is usually provided to the county when a draw is made on that facility.
Is there a chart or something that explains over the last several years, like how that process has happened? I'd be curious to see, but it makes sense what you're saying, but just when that's, just to see over the last 5 years or 10, whatever the appropriate period is to get a good sense of when things are paid back and
Sure, we can
when
provide
they're drawn
that.
down. I'm just curious to see. Yeah.
Yeah, we can provide.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, of the projects that have been drawn down.
Assuming you want the entirety, draws, repayment.
Right.
Just
Yeah,
the-
just to
the
get
actual-
it's more of a learning exercise
Sure.
for me. Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
helpful. Thank you. And I have no problem with moving forward.
All right.
Okay. And then the last project, number 5, is the supplemental funds for deeply subsidized HOC-owned units. And this is continuing to have $1.25 million in funding available each year for HOC to do maintenance. Previously, a couple years ago, the project had been called for a long time for public housing, but because we have participated in the RAD program, we did change the name of the project a couple of years ago because we no longer have public housing, technically, but we have deeply subsidized units, and the income and support that comes from the federal government is not really sufficient for HOC to maintain units, and so they use this to supplement their other funds that come in through income to continue to do maintenance in all their units.
So this is county funding that we provide through the
Right.
CIP.
It helps update kitchens and
Helps.
bathrooms and all kinds of things in our deeply subsidized units
And it's 1.25 million a year.
in each of the years, yes.
And are you able to fully spend that? Do you use all that?
Yes. Yeah, we don't have an issue spending it. I'll just add, so it's not simply the Rental Assistance Demonstration or RAD effort. It could also be a Section 18 demolition disposition, any sort of, any one of those sort of HUD efforts. So.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. This is a good overview of some of your finances through the county, and we'll keep going through. I think we'll approve this as recommended. Thank you. All right, so next we have DHCA, which is going to talk about facility planning, the Affordable Housing Acquisition and Preservation Fund, the Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund. We also have a presentation on right of first refusal.
Right.
Are we going to kind of blend these two?
Yeah, I think, so I think if we could just go through the community development side first, because I think you'll get your
Right.
updates and
Right.
approve that, and then we can move in and to start talking about both the existing affordable housing CIP project and then the new opportunity fund. But I think once you have the overviews of those, you might want to just go ahead and get your presentation on right of first refusal, so you kind of have it all working together, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then I would just say that traditionally, and I recommend this again, traditionally, what the PHED committee has done is you've made a recommendation, if you're able to, on the community development PDF, but
Right.
we've always held off on the affordable housing ones until we see what's in the operating budget, so that we have a full picture
Thank
of what
you.
the executive is
Good point.
recommending for affordable housing, and that has been the practice.
And we'll continue that practice this year. So we'll not be voting today on big ticket items. We'll be discussing them, and we will return to them in the course of the operating budget cycle.
Right. Okay. So the first part of the packet is for facility planning in housing and community development. And this is level funded at $125,000 a year of current revenue. and it provides funding for studies that help the department determine which projects are eligible or meet criteria to move forward, and which may be eligible for other sources of funding. So in your memo, you will see the projects that they have been looking at with some updates. I'll let Mr. Anderson give you a little bit of update on each of those, and then I would just say that after that, previously, the committee, and there are a few new projects, but previously the committee had asked for some more information on how neighborhoods are selected and when in the process there's consideration given to whether something's eligible for CDBG or other funding. And so there is some responsive information, but I think if we just start with having Mr. Anderson just give you a brief update on the projects that are ongoing or were found ineligible or are new.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Chris Anderson from the Department of Housing and Community Affairs. And probably the biggest project that we're working on, the highest profile project right now, is Kimberly Place, which is a community located adjacent to Plaza del Mercado on Belpre and Lay Hill Road. And that is a community that we were notified of through several sources. DPS, the community reached out to us, and then we went out and did a study. They were actually suffering from foundation collapses in their community because of underground water problems. So we've, the last several years, have been undertaking an extensive drainage improvement project out there, which should be done by the spring, and we hope to maybe have some kind of an event out there to acknowledge that and recognize that project.
Great.
And DPS notified us that there were several balconies out there, I think about 78 balconies that were collapsing because they had not been properly built over the years. So we've gone out there and we've made CDBG funds and state community legacy funds available to homeowners there to take down those dangerous structures and put up code compliant structures. A newer project which will be going out for bid is a Montclair Manor, which is located on Beers Mill Road, close to Connecticut Avenue Estates. And we'll be working with that community for some lighting and physical improvements there. And I should preface a lot of this by saying that part of these activities started as part of our initiative to help HOAs that were financially struggling extend some of preserve their own capital reserves so that we can go in. We do require 20% I guess a match or contribution from the community, but we're able to use the CDBG funds because they're eligible for CDBG funds to help stretch their dollars and make some of these needed improvements.
Quickly, Kimberly Place, we're nearly in completion. Does this like stabilize this community, in the sense the condo fees and other issues? Is this really, what kind of impact does this work have for the community?
Well, every time a foundation collapsed in that community, or caved in, I should say, it would cost them about $150,000 to $200,000 to repair it out of their own capital reserves.
Yeah.
So they were able to keep up with that, but we thought we'd take a more comprehensive approach, which was to actually try to alleviate the water problem that was causing these foundational collapses. And so I think that that's what we've been able to do through this. It's going to be close to $1 million, which completely reconfigures the drainage and puts some underground structures in place, and really we think will solve the long-term problem, which they would probably not have been able to do without some kind of massive special assessment.
Right.
And it hopefully will alleviate their need to spend those $200,000 because no more foundations will collapse.
Okay.
So those are the types of ways that we try to benefit the communities by stretching their dollars a little bit. But we do ask them to put a little bit of skin in the game by making, if possible, up to a 20% contribution to the project cost. And in this case, they were able to do that. And all the other projects that you'll see here, Montclair Manor, where we'll be doing some site improvements, some lighting improvements. They will be contributing as well. And then we'll be working in about 4 communities in Montgomery Village, which are eligible. We were actually contacted by the Montgomery Village Foundation several years ago. Montgomery Village is showing its age. It was as you know, built in the late 60s, early 70s, and some of the communities were starting to suffer from some public area disinvestment. And so we were able to bring, again, some CDBG funds into that area to deal with drainage issues, access, pedestrian safety issues, lighting issues, again, for safety improvements. And so those will be, again, going out to bid probably sometime in the spring. Is that correct, Rogers? Out to bid? Oh, next week. Even better.
All right.
Even better. And that's Roger Stanley is our chief of our neighborhood programs. But then when we do these studies through the capital facilities planning, we do find that some areas are ineligible primarily because this program is funded through CDBG funds. There are certain national criteria that have to be met, and eligible income levels. And so occasionally we will begin the initial studies, we'll do our income surveys and things like that, and find that the area is not eligible for the CDBG funds. Let's see, and in a couple of cases, the projects were actually referred over to our multifamily housing section. Hermitage Woods was a project that's off of Lay Hill Road as well, and that was one where you may have read about it in the newspaper, where they had an inoperable elevator. They had it's a unique structure in that the access to the unit, it's almost like a motel in a way. The access to the units are on outdoor walkways, and they also had skyways that connected the units to the elevator. It's a unique building setup. So anyway, our multifamily was able to help them with some preservation funds as well to help alleviate some of the dangerous situations and to help repair the elevator out there. So in that case, we actually were able to preserve some of our CDBG funds because there was another eligible source of funding available for that. And then, so Montgomery Village, Granville 2 were ineligible. Hermitage Woods was referred to multifamily. A couple of communities in Montgomery Village that we reviewed were not eligible.
And again, that means no CDBG funding?
No CDBG funding at
so
this.
So it's local
right.
only?
Well, in Ridgeline, we may actually be able to, we are working on setting up a single-family rehab program, and we may be able to use those funds. We couldn't qualify the area as a whole, so now we have to go to work with each individual homeowner, and we can qualify them for rehab funds that way. So we just need to get that program guidelines set up, and we will go back out there and try to contact those owners.
Okay.
Okay, and then
Andrew? Okay, keep going through these and then we'll stop. Yeah, sure.
So in some of the ways that we work is through our nonprofit partners. The Montgomery Housing Partnership gets money through Neighborhoods to Call Home. And they were able to work with us and the community in Connecticut Avenue Estates to help make some improvements and clean up the Dalewood Park area, which is a small little pocket park. We were hoping to do some more extensive improvements in that park, but we were hindered by the fact that there were some underground easements and stormwater facilities there, so it was limited to what we could do. But I do believe that we made safety improvements with, cleaning up the park, cutting away vegetation, made it much more open. Prior to that, they'd had some problems with folks congregating that may not have been up to good activity, so they were able to help control that a little bit, and that's used by a lot of the families with small children. There's a playground existing on that site, so they're able to use that. A couple of other new projects that we'll be working on is Wedgewood 2. We're just beginning the study there. And then a larger scale study that we're doing now is a Purple Line study, which is to study the improvements in the Purple Line are literally limited to the areas around the stations. There's not been, I think, a lot of consideration given to how those stations will actually fit into the surrounding communities. So we would be looking at the communities along the Purple Line to see if there are ways that we can improve pedestrian access, safety, maybe make some other, maybe if we have the rehab program, we can make some other resources available, CDBG funds available to those communities. So that area is just starting out now, and we're doing our survey work there to see again, what sort of, how to better integrate those stations into the communities where they're located.
That's great. There is a project in the Department of Transportation focused on Purple Line Access, the BIPA program, which
Right.
we added last year, I believe, or maybe 2 years ago. Are you talking to them?
We haven't talked with them for a while, but we did talk to them early on, and we should reach out to them again, and that's going to be part of the process that we do here. We talked to the art coordinators at one point in time, and I don't know if they're included.
Art coordinators?
Well, there's public art
Right.
associated with
Yeah,
each.
well, we've added a specific project focused on pedestrian and bike access to Purple Line stations.
Right. Okay.
And so if you could please sit down with them and coordinate. You may be actually a little ahead of them on schedule, I don't know. When is your expenditure
Well,
planned?
right now we'd be in the planning stages, so this is definitely the right time to reach out to them and see if there may be areas where we could move ahead with some CDBG-funded projects that they may have identified, or others that we may have identified. So, yes, this is a good time for us to reach out to them. And to be perfectly honest, the senior planner who's working on this probably has already reached out, but I
Sure.
didn't know.
I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't have.
Yeah,
I mean, if
yeah.
you're going to be talking about pedestrian access, you're going to talk to DOT.
Right.
But could we follow up on that and just, if you could, talk and then come back to us and let us
Sure.
know how the projects are coordinated?
Yes, and we will do that. Okay.
Is that what you?
Well, yeah, that was the one specific question that I had. I have a broader question about CDBG, which I can wait and let you get through the rest of the packet. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's literally what you're talking about here with federal money is exactly what we have in the DOT budget, specifically last mile pedestrian access and bike access to Purple Line stations. So we've got to make sure that the left hand's talking to the right hand, because it would be silly to duplicate efforts and not to coordinate. And frankly, it would be great if we could utilize some federal dollars to support some of this work so that we could free up some of those county dollars that could be used elsewhere. These dollars are more restricted. And so if, we could fit it into your work program, that'd be great.
And we could be working on those while DOT is dealing with the other issues. We could be working specifically in the low and moderate income areas that are in these station areas as well. And we also do an extensive public outreach and design charrettes and all sorts of things to help bring the community in, to help identify what they would like as well. So, yeah, we definitely can stretch the dollars for that effort by bringing this.
And as a general rule, the design charrettes and other things, when you're dealing with transportation-related items like sidewalks and like pedestrian access, is DOT involved? Is planning involved?
In the past, yes. We have not had any projects recently that have involved DOT. Some of them were within communities, helping, they were private facilities maintained by communities. McKendree, for example, is a low moderate income community in Montgomery Village, and we helped improve pedestrian access for school children accessing the main bus route there. But that was a private drive and a private sidewalk. So we were able to bring the CDBG there to help improve the safety there.
Yeah, I think that all sounds great. I just want to kind of add a voice to, I think, on the front end, even as planning these items, I think it would be really helpful to bring in planning, which is really focusing on pedestrian access, and DOT, which is really focusing on the Vision Zero. I'm hungry, so I talk to Euro. But Vision Zero, yeah, exactly. I have a vision of Euros, which, if you looked at me, you wouldn't be surprised. But as we're focusing on Vision Zero, this is a huge aspect of it. One, making sure that people are safe on our transportation infrastructure, but two, making sure that it's easy to access our transportation infrastructure, both of which are critical community development pieces. So hopefully, not just on this particular project, but that becomes part of your planning and part of your work program development.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
And then we just provided information about how these communities were selected, or how in general communities are selected. And as I mentioned, since most of the funding comes from grant sources, the Community Development Block Grant or Community Legacy Grants, the activities that we fund are limited to areas that are eligible for those grants. And for Community Development Block Grant, we have census data that indicates areas where we are allowed to spend the funds. So so we're pretty much limited to studying projects in those areas. The community legacy money is a little bit more flexible, but we haven't been as competitive in that state program recently. So we did bring some community legacy grant money to the Kimberly Place project to help provide more assistance to more households.
Okay.
Okay, and so, and then, in general, we just are trying to outline sort of how we do this, and this Community Development Block Grant requires a lot of public participation and communication. So there are public meetings that are held in all of the identified communities to help get their input as to how they would like to, or what they feel their community needs. And then again, we look at the census data and income data. And I should point out, we're not actually limited to HUD-identified low and moderate income areas. For example, Kimberly Place is not in a technical LMI area because it's thrown off by a golf course, and north of that golf course is a very, very wealthy community. And it's just a tiny little piece that's tacked on to that census tract. So in that case, we don't go out and we do a door-to-door survey. We have a survey instrument approved by HUD, and we can verify that at least 51% of the folks in that area are low and moderate income. So there are a lot of different tools that we use to help identify and to qualify these areas. And we also do reach out to other partners throughout the county, regional service centers. In the past, we've reached out to the police, to the schools, code enforcement, which is within DHCA. They help us identify areas where there may be some need because they're out in the community constantly. And so on page 6, you'll see in the past, I'm not saying every project requires working with these partners, but in the past we have at one point or one time or another reached out to these communities and these agencies or partners, and they help us. And then I just wanted to give a brief update on the Glenmont Shopping Center, which is the famous Glenmont Shopping Center. Last year, Ms. Navarro asked that some money be put in for a planning study, planning and design, and we have reached out to the property owners there, and the initial feedback was not a definite no, but a definite we have other priorities right now, and one of the things that they want to work on is the DOT and access to the shopping center. I guess when they did some of the George Avenue improvements, they affected the access to that shopping center. So I know Craig Wilson was here, but he's been working, and Rogers and his staff have been going and actually meeting with state DOT to try to see if we can address some of the concerns that the property owners have. And then in the meantime, we have been working with one of our design consultants to come up with some schematics of what it could look like, and we still plan to... What
could look like, the facade improvement?
Yeah, the facade improvement to the Glenmont Shopping Center. It's a very complicated...
Imagine you would take the bowling alley sign and make that the marquee. That is one of the coolest signs in all of Montgomery County.
It is a cool sign. That's a difficult property because it's not owned by, as you know, not owned by one owner. It's a minimized shopping center.
Condominium.
Yeah. Right. So each of those storefronts is owned by a different owner, and those yeah. And those easements actually go out into the parking lot, and each owner is responsible for different sections of the parking lot. So
it's vexing. It's vexing. I mean, I don't know that the market is there yet for something huge at that location, but in the future it will be there, and we ought to be able to think really big about that location because it's an amazing location, walking distance to the metro.
Yeah.
And, and it appears like these 12 owners are never going to get anything together beyond status quo, so.
Well, with neighborhood revitalization and facades in general, hope springs eternal. So we're going to still be out there working. We're going to have our presentation with them in the spring, and owners turn over, and owners turn things over to other people, and there is, I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying there is one owner that is very interested, would love to do some things out there, but again, he's got to get the cooperation of others. So I think from that standpoint, he may be communicating with his other owners, and again, we hope that at some point there will be some changes there.
Why don't we buy it? Why don't we just buy the properties up one by one? Have you ever thought about doing that?
Well,
I mean, they're all rent-generating properties. They're not, this is not blighted building that doesn't
Right.
produce money, but.
there was a very cursory look at urban renewal, but that was not, because the county law does have an urban renewal provision, but this property doesn't seem to rise to that level of slum and blight.
No, it's not. I mean, it's busy and full.
Yeah,
The-
right,
the
right.
Businesses are thriving in there, I think, it seems like. So that's the challenge, is like,
Yeah.
it's not that kind of dynamic.
So we will, from our standpoint, continue to work to try to at least improve what's there, the appearance of what's there, and also reformat the parking lot, because that's a problem as well.
Okay?
Okay, so
Andrew?
any other?
Yeah, on that, I think it's a really important one. I think, and I appreciate Councilmember Navarro raising it last year, and I think that it raises the broader question. I mean, we do have in the planning work plan, the shopping center, the older shopping center, as something that planning is planning to take a look at. But I would encourage you again to collaborate with them on those efforts specifically related to this pot of money, because I think that there are some opportunities that they may come up with that you may not have thought of, and vice versa. And I think that we don't talk to each other nearly enough on this stuff, but this is definitely an area of need. And I think this is a perfect example of these are not condemned properties. These are not vacant properties. This is a center that's actually doing pretty well, but that could use some tender love and care. I think in terms of that effort. I understand it's hard with 12 different units, and I think it's one of many. That it might not be ripe for purchase and redevelopment, but it could use some improvements to make it safer, to make it look nicer, to help some of the businesses that are there and to serve the community. So I think, I would encourage you, like on the Purple Line piece, to reach out with our, sister agency at Park and Planning and talk through what, as that project unfolds, that some of the work that you've already undertaken with this, I think, is a really good, case on that. Related to this, can I just ask one question? I appreciate all the work that you did to explain how the outreach happens. I'm still not totally clear on. It's clear once you pick an area, who you reach out to, how you reach out, how that process works. I'm still not totally clear of. There's needs in lots of places in Montgomery County. This is not an unlimited pot of money to meet those needs, and so how do we pick the areas themselves? And in addition to that, how do we choose between commercial and residential? I mean, I'm much more familiar with CDBG money being used for the commercial side, much less so I'm learning more about the residential side, but that seems to be an overarching policy question that we ought to be thinking about, and the department ought to be thinking about, of what is our goal? How much should go to the commercial side? How much should go to the residential side? What are we trying to accomplish with this money that's limited but very important to have from our federal partners? And how do we best put it and deploy it to best use to serve the community?
Well, I probably gave too quick of a overview of that. This really is a data-driven exercise. We do look at not just the census data, but we look at farms data. We reach out to the police and find out where there's sort of pockets of crime areas, and that is one of the factors, as a matter of fact, that helped inform the whole decision about moving into the Belle Pre corridor. We did that about the same time they had some major police activity in that area, and so we became aware. We met with the police. We became aware of some of the problems in that community. But it really is data focused. It is again looking at lots of different census categories of information, And again, reaching out with the regional service centers are very aware of their areas, and we talk to them and try to identify areas. If I can't say that there's like a point system, there's not like really a point system that, because we also want to try to be sensitive to geographic need and dispersal of the funds because they are limited. When we used to get a much more CDBG, we used to have a very active commercial segment of the CDBG program where we did facade easements and other business incubator type activities. But as the pot has shrunk over the years, we did kind of move into more of the residential area to try to address the housing problem in the county, and have tried to address the commercial through other funding sources. We'd had some luck in the CIP over the last several years with Burtonsville and Colesville. So we haven't forgotten about the commercial piece, but we've admittedly do not fund that as much through the CDBG program as we used to. We used to have an entire commercial redevelopment section in DHCA that was largely funded with CDBG, and most of those folks have moved to areas, like some of the business development specialists and things like that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I would be remiss if I did not mention regarding the Glenmont Shopping Center, and this is a very high priority for the county executive. I want to mention because very early, within the first month or so, he appointed an ACAO to kind of be the point person for the Glenmont Shopping Center. That's how important it is, and so we've been involved in that effort. DPS has been involved in that. Park and Planning has been involved. So there have been some discussions. It's just finding the right hook or tool to entice the owners to want to try to do something there, I think, is the challenge that we're facing.
Okay, quick question, because we do need to move on.
Just could you, I think I had stepped out, or the Colesville, New Hampshire, the two that you closed out, just what's going on there? It's not completed, but it's ongoing. Just what was the status?
Burtonsville is close to being closed out. There's one last major activity going on there, and that was requested by the community, and Mr. Hucker's office has been very active in it as well, which is to do welcoming gateway signage to the Burtonsville area to help promote that area and give it recognition like many other communities have. So once the gateway signage is done, that project will probably be closed out over the next next year, possibly. Colesville, we have one more major commercial project there. The Meadowwood Shopping Center is now going in for its permitting process, and that will be a major, large strip mall that will be undergoing facade improvements in the next year or so. We still market the program actively. We've had a few owners come in and talk to us and then back out for whatever reason. So we are still making the funding available. At some point, I think there will need to be the decision made as to whether those funds could be used more productively elsewhere.
So if there are people that are still interested, they could still access the funds.
Definitely.
Okay.
If anybody's watching or listening, yes, please. If you're in Colesville business owner in the corridor there, please do contact us.
The millions watching at home, as I say. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I think that wraps up this portion. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate your good work. Keep it up. And we'll move on to the Affordable Housing
Yes.
Fund.
So starting on page 7 of the memo, the first project that has a recommendation from the executive is the existing Affordable Housing Acquisition and Preservation Project. The executive is recommending $22 million in each of the 6 years for this project.
Yeah.
And it is really a balance of expected loan repayments and then the HIF revolving money, which is the taxable bonds that we've used to fund this portion of this project. I would just say that really there's 2 policy changes from what the executive is recommending. One is that he's programming across all 6 years of the CIP as opposed to just the first 2 years, and that's really the main reason for sort of the larger in the 6-year number if you compare a
Yes.
6-year to a 6-year. Because we've had 22, 26, 19, 20, you know, it's been around that amount. We've just only done 2 years at one time. But that's an important change because it does make a different commitment in terms of what's across the 6 years, in terms of expectations. And in terms of expectations, because the executive is showing debt funding across the 6 years, there is now an expectation that we would continue to use the issuance of debt to fund affordable housing in the county. And one of the reasons why previously the policy had been just to fund the 2 years was really because it gave a different message about reconsidering where we were in terms of issuing debt. Obviously, we would always have appropriated loan repayments, but really the question was about how much more debt you wanted to issue in each year. So I think these are, the dollar amounts themselves aren't terribly different from probably what would have previously been in if you looked over the 6 years, or what you might have done if you were programming all 6 years. But I think I just did want to highlight it that way, really, is just kind of policy changes of showing the 6 years and then assuming that there'll be debt over the course of the 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad idea. I think it was a little oversold at the rollout, as I said, but it's not a bad thing to put more definition to the out years. No objection to that point. Andrew?
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification. I give the county executive credit and the administration credit. This sets the floor for what the expectation should be. It is a big change from what was proposed last year. I want to clarify, we fought very hard to add $5 million so that we didn't take a giant step backwards on our commitment to affordable housing. And I think this reflection in this CIP is to not only maintain that level of commitment as the minimum, as the floor, as the expectation that we're never going to meet the need. Keeping doing what we're doing, we're certainly not going to meet it by taking a step backwards to the commitment that we're making in terms of our affordable housing crisis. And so I appreciate the fact that while it is a bigger accounting change than it is a programmatic change in terms of actually delivering additional new housing in the here and now, it sets an expectation and a commitment that we share and that I appreciate that the administration has followed through on to, so that we don't have to do what we did last year, which was to, just fight and crawl to get back to what we were doing in the current fiscal year that we were in. So, I agree. I'm supportive of this. I'm hopeful that we can take a look as we move forward and see if there's more that we can do based on affordability, but I think that setting the expectation moving forward for the full CIP that we are not going to move backwards. We're at the minimum going to keep steady, and if we're able to this year or in years moving forward, add to that commitment that the floor is there and the opportunity is to add to that effort and to double down on that commitment.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're being quite generous there. The expectation was previously that we weren't going to reduce expenditures in the upcoming 2 years, and so we took action to ensure that that was the case. Will?
Thank you. Agree. I'm glad to see this here. I think we do need to send a strong message that if we're going to meet our housing goals, and particularly around affordability, preservation, new creation, all of it's going to be important. So appreciate that message. I'm very hopeful that we'll see in the operating budget a commensurate proposal regarding the HIF, and that we can say similar things then. So I appreciate it.
All right.
So again, we're going to hold off on any actual final recommendations on the dollar stuff till we see
Yep.
the operating budget. But I did want to, in conjunction with this project, just highlight for you on page 8, there are some highlights, and DHCA can also talk about those in terms of the housing loan pipeline of what was closed in FY19, what's being closed now, so you have an idea of that. But I also did want to mention, and this came up previously in a conversation, DHCA has proposed guidelines for the loans for multifamily affordable housing development, and they are in a comment period right now. This is a follow-up to when director had a discussion with the development community saying that he did wish to have some clearer guidelines around the types of projects that would be funded. And so there's a copy of them in the packet. There's responses to questions I asked. Now, these are questions from my perspective. I'm not an actual housing developer, so I understand some of the housing developers are also providing comments to the department. And I think you ought to hear a little bit from the department about it. I would just say that what I am recommending is that the committee and receive any of the comments once the comment period is over, and then hear from the director again about the process for taking those comments into account and sort of what the process will be for a final. The guidelines do make some changes. They place an emphasis on preservation of existing affordable housing. Right now, as you know, this money is very flexible. The department uses it for many things. They evaluate projects on each project's merit, which they can still do, but there are some priorities listed in here that I think, do make a change around that. I would just also say one other thing, which was interesting at the conversation with the developers. There was a question specifically asked, should we keep just having like rolling, we take applications as your project is ready, or should there be some kind of deadline? Everybody said, no, just keep letting us work and take projects as they're ready. And so that is still how that proposal will work. But I thought you might want to hear from the director some thoughts around how he's going to work through this process of the comments.
All right, Director Nigam.
Asim Nigam, Director, DSCA. When Councilmember Peterson talked about euros, I was thinking about 560 million euros that City of Vienna has,
a lot of money.
which I wish we had. But we'll do whatever we can with the part of money that we have. As Linda eloquently mentioned about our NOFA, and those were great questions, Linda, by the way, that you posed to us. And going back to 5-6 months ago, when we had the first conversation that we need to be more transparent, streamline our process so that our developers know what we're looking for, where the priorities are. So we have issued a NOFA. I have issued NOFA in my prior life in Fairfax on similar lines for a number of years. So this is not something new for me with the scoring criteria. What it shows is whatever preferences are, still gives a lot of flexibility. And I will tell you, if you go to Fairfax NOFA, their NOFA is more stringent than the NOFA that we have for Montgomery County. It provides a lot of flexibility. We still can do, what we think is reasonable and where the preferences lie. At the same time, we're asking the developers to put their thinking cap on in terms of being innovative, how to fund affordable housing transactions, whether preservation or new creation, and also to serve population at or below 50% of AMI, and there's a great need for it, which has been demonstrated by several studies, whether it's COG study or Purple Line. There's a lot of market affordable product which is out there. So we are, as Linda mentioned, we're in the comment period right now. We'll see what comments we receive, what we can or cannot make changes on, what we can live with, so we can apprise you of any comments that we receive.
All right, so we've talked about bringing more transparency to the the resources and the process, and so this is your program to achieve that, and you're receiving comments now, and so I agree with Linda. I really do. We want to see the comments that you receive, and we want to get a chance to really digest this. I'm looking at Circle 26, and I see the document that you put out, and then on Circle 32, there's sort of a scoring sheet, so very interesting. I guess we never had something like this quite in the past. So I'd like to, we'll want to hear from our affordable housing community what the comments are, and then keep working with you. So
and I must add, some of the developers are the same who have been working in Northern Virginia, who also work in Montgomery County. So when you worked on the NOFA in Fairfax, so they are pretty familiar with the scoring and how the NOFA works over there.
Yeah. So you're getting all of your comments, like next week, I think is the end of next week is the closing date for your comments?
Yes, 21st or something.
Okay, so I think that'll be fine as far as timing. We can, when we return to the topic in the context of the operating budget, if not before, we can review that then.
I just, because I think one of the things that we want to continue, like if you look in the pipeline projects and you look at the kinds of projects we've had, we actually have funded a wide variety of things, some of which even have been home ownership.
Right.
But, the funding now is very flexible.
Yeah.
And so,
For example, we funded the Octave in Silver
Correct.
Spring, a project that is small units. There were none provided to the MPDU program because the size of the unit and the price point of the units was already MPDU level.
and of course, DHCA has structured the loan agreements very differently depending on what the goal of the project is. So in that case, there was a relatively quick payback.
Right.
But we also use the money that's appropriated in here can also be used to, for example, help purchase small unit buildings that may be used by nonprofits, and they need their loans to be structured very differently because of the populations they'll be serving. And so I think that,
Yep.
again, as we talk about the next item a little bit, which is the new project for the Opportunity Fund, I think what we want to do is to be, as the director is saying, he wants to be clear about this, but we also want to be clear that we have pots of available resources for all the housing things that we need to do. And it's not, for example, just for, preservation of developments of a certain size or those kinds of things. So,
Yeah.
I think like an advantage of the history has been that people have felt able to come forward with any type of project. A disadvantage has been, of course, there's not always clarity around which projects are going to have priority. So I think it's just making sure that there's a balance. And again, in the operating budget money each year, there is some monies in there that are used for these same purposes, for like special needs housing, some other things. So getting back to the discussions the committee's had earlier about trying to have a better layout about what the funds are available for, we'll just, I think, want to be really clear that, have clarity around that, which is why I think it'll be really helpful.
Well, and I want to look at, I want to hold you accountable for production here. I'm worried that the requirements that you want to put into the process may be very difficult to achieve, and the production could slow down, like the pipeline could slow down. And, you've got a high bar here in FY19. You closed loans on 20 projects. And in FY20, it appears that you're heading towards 10.
Well, I wasn't here in FY19, but what I can tell you is in FY19, we were able to close several projects, but then there were 3 or 4 years before that we didn't close those many projects.
Right.
So
I understood that as well, that there was a bit of a backlog that kind of burst through, and there was some elbow grease put into finalizing these deals.
Correct.
So I'm not going to say 20 is necessarily something that you can do every single year, but I am at the same time, I'm going to. I think we need to figure out what number should you be hitting, because if pushing towards a different approach means that in the end we're just not able to expend our funding, and we're not getting so much value, we're not getting as many projects, then that would be a concern. So I see that you have 17 projects in varying phases of consideration for FY21, but I'm worried about FY20, only being at 10.
Well, I can tell you that based on what we have budgeted, and as I mentioned a few months ago, if you look at our capital budget for making long-term loans, it's basically $32 million or something out of the entire HIF budget. And we expect to spend that much money again in FY20 based on what we know at this point. The intention is not to slow down the progress. The intention is these funds are opportunity driven. We don't want to sit on these funds for 3 or 4 years and then all of a sudden we close on 20 or 30 projects. We want to encourage our developers to come with the projects, which are ready to go. We'll look at those projects, and then we'll continue to look at those projects which may be in the pipeline where the money needs to be appropriated from future fiscal years. So it's not that we're going to slow down our process. Is that, as you rightfully mentioned, that we need to do more preservation and production each year for affordable housing, and that's our goal.
Thank you. I mean, as it shows here, of the 2,700 units, 62% were affordable in FY20. I think it's important to keep that in mind. We had a mixed income, philosophy, and we're willing to subsidize projects where a share of the units is affordable.
And that's exactly what we are saying in our NOFA too. We encourage mixed income. We want to serve people among all income spectrum for county to achieve full development potential. So it's not just affordable housing. We are serving people along all income spectrum.
All right. Okay. I'll pass it to my colleagues. Come back and keep going.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the conversation. Appreciate that we got everything on paper here. I have a few questions specifically on what you just said, a few overarching comments that I wanted to raise. This is helpful. I share the staff thought process and the chair's thought process in terms of kind of reserving my own judgment until we hear back from people who actually know what they're talking about in terms of doing this work. I don't build buildings. I don't provide affordable housing. I don't pretend to. So I think it would be helpful to understand from them. I do have some things that I find interesting, some things that I find somewhat concerning, but I want to hear more from them. I do want to raise, this is helpful in terms of adding a little bit more transparency to the process. I appreciate that you're trying to follow through on that commitment that you made to me privately and publicly when you took on this role. But when I think of the transparency in the HIF, I think we got to do a lot more than just having in a packet answers to questions, which is a good start. I think we need to figure out what the HIF is, what programs we have in it, be very clear to folks how much is in there, what that money does. I think we should separate capital and operating so folks know that, if you want to have a HIF capital, a HIF operating, that's fine. But to me, the HIF has become a catch-all for everything because it's just a convenient place to throw things, and I don't think that that's helpful to the public. I don't think that it's particularly accountable or transparent. I don't think it's particularly easy to partner with us to know what the expectations are. And so I know this was a year of transition, but I am hopeful that this packet is the first step in a much bigger, much more comprehensive process of creating a HIF that is focused, in my view, it should be just on preservation and production. And then we can do all kinds of other programs in other places. But when we say the HIF, we should know what we mean, and other people should know what we mean. Currently, when we say the HIF, it could mean almost anything related to something that could even be tangentially related to housing, preservation, production, affordability.
Used furniture relocation?
Yeah, there's just a lot in here. And I'm not saying that there isn't value to some of the other catch-all programs that are part of the HIF. I just don't think it is what people think it is, or when we're all talking about it, we aren't necessarily talking about the same thing. And to me, when you're talking about public budgeting, when you're talking about finance, that's a problem. And we've got to fix that problem. So I just wanted to make an overarching
You're absolutely
on that.
right. When I first looked at our HIF budget, I couldn't follow it. I couldn't tell, how much money is there for our capital loans for developer community. So we have been talking to OMB for the next fiscal year, let's categorize certain funding so that our partners know how much money is there for their projects. So as they're planning their projects 1 year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, assuming the level funding or funding, whatever the funding is over the next 6 years, they know how much money will be there for their own projects.
I appreciate that. Yeah, because I mean, we talk about the 32 million. We talked about it before. That's something that we all are operating under. But if any average taxpayer, any normal affordable housing developer, nonprofit, any advocate looked at any public document, I think they would have a very tough time coming up with that number. And that is not a good way to do business in the public sector, in my view. So I appreciate that. I know you're committed to it. I think it was a good opportunity to re-raise that issue. And I know it takes time to move a cruise ship, but hopefully we can get that cruise ship heading. It's turning, but let's get it exactly into the direction that we want it. You mentioned earlier the 32 million, that you think that the 32 million will be fully deployed this year. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, based on the pipeline.
The 2 projects and the 8 in the pipeline?
Can you move your mic, please, Doctor?
Sorry. So what we mentioned in terms of funding in our forum was we'll have at least $27.65 million available, because there were certain monies in fiscal 2021. In fiscal 20, we'll have about 11 million. Out of 11 million, $4 million are the home program income. So
Yeah, but it's on page 9 for anybody who's following.
yes.
Yeah.
So based on what we have in the pipeline for fiscal 20, we anticipate using pretty much what we have at this point. Or we may commit, because out of $11 million, $4 million is home program income that we received, which we were not anticipating earlier. So, which is good. I'm not complaining about more funds, but we may decide to fund those projects which are home eligible funded, and those projects may happen in FY20 or may spill over into FY21.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm clear and that everybody else is clear, since we do have this transparency challenge that we're working through. We have 2 projects right now in FY20. I share the concerns raised. That ain't going to cut it. We can't continue to do 2 projects a year and come anywhere close to the affordable housing production that the county is going to have to be a partner in and participating in, and come anywhere near meeting our needs. We're not going to be able to preserve our way out of this problem. That's a part of it, but we have to produce projects, period. I just don't think there's any other way to tackle this issue. I just want to make sure I'm reading and understanding this properly. The 3.85 million, that's the 32 million, drops to 27.65 million. I think it's 3.85 million is the net of availability for the 2 projects currently. Is that right? Is that what the 3.85 million is being used for?
I'm going to allow my multifamily folks to chime in as well.
Hi, Tim Getzinger, Chief of Finance and Administration. Could you please repeat that math? There was a lot of numbers.
Sure. Sorry. Okay. We've all agreed that 32 million is the amount of available money in the HIF currently. That's the number that's been used here. That's the number we've used previously. There's not a lot of backup materials to reflect that. We're going to work on that later, but we're starting at 32 million. Is that?
Are we fund
Correct.
for loans and?
That's correct, for loans, yes.
Okay. So on page.
There's more in the HIF because of what you described earlier.
Sure. I'm just sorry. It's the way that it was described in the packet. I'm describing it the way that it was described in the packet, but I appreciate that point, which is why we need to make it more transparent. But on page 9, if you look at it, it reflects the fact that 27.65 million represents the funds that are available for FY21. So that reflects 3.85 million that is basically encumbered on projects for FY20. Am I reading that correctly?
I think
So is that the 2 projects that we're talking about? We're deploying $3.85 million. I mean, these are public dollars. I'm just trying to figure out, what are we using the public dollars for? What are we getting out of it? How many units are we getting? Are we meeting the challenge? Are we meeting it fast enough?
That's correct. Your math is correct. I appreciate that, yes.
Okay, and so how does the proposed budget for FY21 layer on top of this? If 27.65 million will be available for FY21, one, does that assume that the 8 projects in the pipeline in FY20 that was listed previously in the packet, does that not encumber anything for those projects? And number 2, does the additional funding that we talked about in the previous item, that we're keeping up with our maintenance of effort at minimum for the next 6 years, how does FY21 layer on top of the 27.65?
So we expect, just to back it up a little bit, we would expect 22 million from the housing CIP. So that's 22 million. We would expect a certain amount, probably about 10 million or so from the HIF. However, some of that 10 million will be used for additional programming. There may be $1 to $2 million for a new single-family rehab loan program that we have to kind of back out so that we get to a number that is available to multifamily developers. There'll also be
So
some.
where do we find that in the HIF?
In the operating budget.
On the operating side, okay, got it, okay.
So that's a part of those other uses of the HIF.
Okay. I'm not sure I understand I've been around a lot of budgets before. I'm pretty comfortable around a budget, but I think
We can make sure, this is Stephanie Kelly.
if you could flesh that out in
We have it fleshed out,
Yeah.
we'd be glad to provide it to you as part of the operating budget.
I appreciate when we have that conversation, that would be helpful. And if it could be presented in the packet in advance, 2-3 days early at minimum, so that the public can see it too, because I'd like to get feedback from other stakeholders on that before we have that conversation. I think it'd be really helpful. And I just want to reiterate, I appreciate all the work that's being done, but we have to do more than 2 projects. I understand there's been a transition. I understand there's some changes of priorities, but we have to make sure that we are putting our foot on the pedal. And I appreciate the commitment to what we're talking about doing here. But I'm thinking of Jerry Seinfeld. It's not about taking the reservation. It's about holding the reservation. It's not about appropriating the money for affordable housing projects. It's about actually deploying the capital so that we can help find housing for people who desperately need it, to maintain rents that are affordable, to serve the social, environmental, economic needs that we have, that housing is at the heart of.
We have every intent to spend the money, whatever gets put into HEF funds, and we have every intention to preserve and produce affordable housing, more and more affordable housing each year, if we can.
And the 2 projects have closed so far, but there are 8 projects that potentially can close in FY20.
That's what I was raising. That's not clear. If the 27.65 million, that is what is left after the 3.85 million, is the 3.85 already deployed? It's encumbered. Is it already deployed on the 2 projects that have closed? Is the 27.65 million there? It said it's available for FY21, but the other part of the package says that there are projects that might close in FY20, which is what you said earlier. Hey, don't judge us on the 2 projects this year. The year's not done yet. Give us a chance to finish. I take you at face value for that. It takes time to do a deal. But
If you look at Circle 10 and starting on Circle 11, you'll see a detailed description of our current pipeline of projects. You'll see it's quite extensive. And then we provide information on the projects that have, detailed information on the projects that have closed and the projects that are being considered. The type of math you're talking about, we can definitely provide, and obviously did in order to come up with these numbers, and we can provide it to you as part of the operating budget.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's go.
All right, Will? Okay. All right, so again, to summarize, we're watching the pipeline. We're going to be looking closely at this NOFA. We're going to see what the community of, what the housing production community, what their comments are. We're going to look at all that together, and we'll get that, in the next 3-4 weeks, I would imagine, because you'll be getting all that information by the end of next week. And in the course of the operating budget, we're going to try to continue building on the progress we're making about clarifying what funding is available and for what purpose, and more clearly establish the amount of money that's available for loans and grants. Although it appears from your NOFA you're no longer pursuing grants. I do want to say how the HIF will be used is a county council decision ultimately, very broadly. because we are the policy-setting body of the government. So I am concerned about, we establish guidelines, and that's a collaborative process, of course, but as we are moving on this transparency initiative, I think that I don't think we're saying, here's $32 million, you can do it however you see fit. I think we want to have a little bit more dialogue and transparency to what the policy for that money is, and see where that where that discussion takes us. And it could be the flexibility was valuable in the past. I think the executive is frankly seeking an approach with less flexibility, and I think that's something we need to think about and reach a policy framework that that the council adopts. So work ahead of us there, and I guess the only other thing I'll say is, I see our advocates are here. They are, they're pushing the county to do more, and we need to do more. So we'll need to be doing more, and I'm not, I can't say much more about it than that. But I hope over the course of this winter and spring, we're able to go much beyond what has been contemplated yet. So why don't we move into the second item? Or did we finish this item?
Well, so let me just ask, timing-wise, because we could just briefly say what the Opportunity Fund is now.
Yeah.
Let you hear right of first refusal, so you can have that in, your mind.
Probably a good idea.
And then we'll come back, schedule more time on this in CIP. We'll find time to come back to this soon. Does that
sounds
make
good.
sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to get the PowerPoint up. Why don't you talk a little bit? Is that okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, the Opportunity Fund, I'm going to let the director talk about it because it's a new proposal. But then let's do right of first refusal so you have some background on that.
All right. So while the slides are coming up for the right of first refusal,
Slides up.
let me just tell you briefly what we are envisioning by this new Affordable Housing Opportunity Fund. The executive is recommending $10 million in each of the fiscal years 21 and 22 to create an opportunity fund. Now, specifically, let me first talk about FY21 money so that we don't get confused. What we are proposing here is that out of $10 million of FY21 money, which will be through CIP, it will be under HIF umbrella, we're going to set up an opportunity fund to allow preservation and creation of affordable housing. More often than not, we see that when a property comes up for sale, our partners, some of them have their own resources, no doubt. They have equity investors. But oftentimes, it takes them time to come up with the acquisition financing. So this fund that we are envisioning, should the council approve it and the monies do become available as of July 1st, that we are going to leverage our county resources with private dollars, and we hope that we'll have a fund to the tune of $40-some million, which will allow our developers, both nonprofit and for-profit developers alike, to use this fund for acquisition purposes for a period of 3 years. During the 3-year time period, they will stabilize the property, they will apply for long-term financing. So yes, of course, there will have to be an exit strategy when the fund gets used, but then there'll be a long-term strategy to keep those units affordable, whether it's 30, 35, 40 years, what the case may be. This is not a new concept at all. Other jurisdictions have used it. DC is using it. I used it in Fairfax. Places like Boston, Bay Area, Minnesota, they all are using it. So it's a pretty usable concept and a defined concept, and people have been using it successfully. What this fund does is, in terms of source of money, we are not increasing the debt service on the county. This fund will be funded from the increase in the recordation tax premium for both FY21 and FY22. So essentially, we are adding $10 million more to HEF, and then we are leveraging those $10 million to access private money from different financial institutions.
It's cash. You're putting cash on the table.
Correct, correct. So that's from FY21 funds briefly. From FY22 $10 million funds, those funds won't become available in July 1st of 2021. What we are envisioning is, depending upon the success of this opportunity fund, we can put those $10 million from FY22 funds either in the opportunity fund, or we can create an intermediate fund for up to 10 years or something. I know that PDF says up to 15, but for practical purposes, it may be more like 10 years. And that fund may allow, as an exit strategy, to take out financing from the opportunity fund. There could be other takeout financing. It could be first mortgage, it could be bond financing, it could be 9% credits, 4% credits. It could be other mezzanine debt. So we are simply opening the door for the developers in terms of creating new financing tools. We have had conversation with about the intermediate fund with our revenue authority. They have talked to their investors, and it's a doable idea. That being said, the way Chapter 42 works right now, that has to be revisited for revenue authority in terms of intermediate fund.
Right.
It does not hamper us.
We cannot provide funding to the revenue authority that is used to secure bonds.
Yes. So assuming the funds become available and the council approves our budget, then that's something which revenue authority will be looking into with their bond counsel, with the county attorney's office, and then of course coming to the council for any changes. That being said, we're also
Chapter 42. That's state or it's our own. Oh, there you are. I've been looking for you over there. It's like privately saying to myself, "What are we going to do?" All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought it was the authorizing law from the state that said the county cannot provide the revenue source to the revenue authority that is used to secure bonds. Okay,
Yes.
we'll look into it.
Yeah, so we'll have to look into that. So essentially, this is what we are doing. I know that we have to look at...
Keith Miller was here, but I think he went on too long.
Yeah, he actually had to leave, he told me.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is what we are trying to do.
He was closing on a house, and he bid this morning, and it closed this afternoon during a conversation of our Fed committee.
That's why we might need him involved. That's pretty good. He closes deals in a day.
It seemed like 6 years.
That's called efficiency. So in a nutshell, this is what we are trying to do here. So if you look at CIP, if you $132 million over a period of 6 years, yes, $22 million each year. Then if you look at $10 million in funds from FY21 and FY22, which we are going to leverage. If we get $20 million, we hope to create a fund or funds to the tune of $80 million, which will be used for affordable housing.
Okay, questions?
Yeah.
This is short-term loans. These are loans that would maybe be paid back in 3 years.
Correct. So the beauty of the first fund, that opportunity fund, will be these funds will revolve. So unlike HEF, where the money is loaned for a very long period of time, whether it's 30, 35, or 40 years, here in this fund, the funds are going to revolve, and that's how these funds typically work in the marketplace.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so that's one thing. So we hope that we are opening the doors while becoming more transparent and fair and predictable. We are creating new financing products for our developers.
Thank you. What I'm not quite understanding is, my understanding is that no one's going to take out the short-term financing unless they also know what the long-term financing is. And so that's really usually the problem. The short-term financing is generally more available, I understand. It's the long-term financing that's a little bit harder.
The answer to your first question is yes. Short-term financing is harder and not harder depending upon what resources a developer has. So some of our developers have their own equity investors. So for them, short-term financing is not an issue. But oftentimes, a developer has issues in securing acquisition financing in short amount of time. So what we are doing here is we are creating ready-to-go capital with set-aside underwriting criteria with shorter execution. Yes, you're absolutely right. When a project comes for funding, there will have to be an exit strategy. So whether it's 9% credits or 4% credits or just plain vanilla conventional financing from a bank, in my prior life, I have done transactions with just FHA financing and with county funds, no bonds, no tax credits. So there are different avenues, and that's what we'll be looking at. So if a project is out there, so given the fact that we'll be committing, in CIP, $22 million for the next 6 years, then we know at least what funding is available for the next 6 years.
In the HIF.
In HIF.
For long-term finance.
That's right. So in terms of long-term financing, which will be the exit strategy, so we'll be looking at how much we can put in from HIF, how much if the developer is going to use bonds with credits or just plain vanilla conventional financing, what that exit strategy is going to look like.
All right, why don't we just go to the right of first refusal presentation. Councilmember Jawando needs to exit. Yep.
I look forward to looping back on the fund and this part 2 on refusal. I'll read this, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Child care duties.
Understood. All right.
So we're going to talk now about the right of first refusal. Again, I'm Stephanie Killian, Chief of the Division of Housing. Lawrence Cager, who is our multifamily housing manager, will be up here also because he's our expert and can answer our questions in detail. So we'll go to the first slide. When we talk about the right of first refusal, I think the most important question is actually to change the question. And that is, what does Montgomery County do to protect tenants and protect affordable housing? Because the right of first refusal is one of those tools. And that's how we look at it. It's one of our tools, and a very important tool, but it is one of the tools that we use. So we have our Housing Initiative Fund that funds acquisition, both short-term and long-term acquisition. And so when we've done some right of first refusal projects, we've funded them out of Housing Initiative Fund. However, we've also identified projects that we knew needed to be acquired or were important projects to acquire, and we worked with our partners to go out and either seek out the properties or work with them when they're for sale. So right of first refusal isn't the only way our partners and we work on acquiring valuable properties. We use the Housing Initiative Fund as a very important way of doing that. When properties come to the county through the right of first refusal, we, instead of acquiring the properties or in other ways, we'll work out rental agreements with properties. We also do rental agreements with properties with expiring MPDUs, for example, where we'll work out agreements to extend the MPDU affordability of properties through a different mechanism, and that's through rental agreements and other documents. But then we do get to the right of first refusal, and we want to go through some of the requirements, and so people are very clear about how the right of first refusal is established and what the laws and the rules are regarding it. The right of first refusal is in Chapter 53A, And it really comes out of condominium conversion laws that were passed in the 70s and 80s, and a whole understanding of a need for tenant protections when there are going to be substantial changes at a property. In this same section of the county code are provisions on what happens if an owner demolishes a property, or what happens to tenants if an owner is going to do a rehab and gets all the tenants to leave. What type of tenant protections are involved in those situations? So we look at, and we believe that the intent of the law is that the right of first refusal is a vehicle for changing, you can go into the next slide, is a way of protecting tenants and preserving affordable housing. And so we believe it's important to when we get a right of first refusal offered to the county, that we look at it through that lens, because that is the section of the county code that it's in. There are 3 organizations that have a right of first refusal. So when a property is being sold, any property over, how many units? 4 units, thanks. Any units over 4, any property over 4 rental units, it must be offered to the county for purchase. And the way we define it, explain it, is we step into the shoes of the contract purchaser. There are 3 organizations that have that right to purchase. It's Montgomery County, and it's exercised through our department, the Department of Housing and Community Affairs. It's the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County, and then the residents at the property, a tenants association at a property, has a right of first refusal.
Does HOC have its own right of first
Yes.
refusal, or can it exercise through you?
It has its own right. So the offers come to us, to the county, and to HOC.
Do we have to approve it for them to do, does the municipality have to approve it for HOC to exercise it, or HOC can exercise it without our approval?
HOC can exercise without our approval. Any municipality has to approve either HOC or the county
It's in this
exercising,
jurisdiction.
if it's in the jurisdiction.
Right, okay, so ultimately, we have to approve it, but we don't have to be involved and accept it.
And no, we don't have, HOC could exercise by
Independently.
itself. Independently. If it's in any municipality must approve either HOC or the county exercising its right of first refusal.
Got it, thanks for the clarification.
HOC cannot preempt the county from exercising a right of first refusal, but they have their own independent right.
And we have worked cooperatively together
Absolutely,
to
yes.
exercise the right of first refusal.
It's important to understand that when this offers comes to the county, it is a contract, it's a legal document, and the law requires that we must match essentially all of the terms in the contract. Of course, we must match the price, we must match the deposit. Except for provisions in the law, we need to meet some of the important dates in the contract. The law does provide the county additional time to go to closing, and that's mandated. But like, for example, if there's a feasibility period that's specified in the contract, we would have the same feasibility period. Because it's a contract and a legal document, we take them very seriously. There's confidential information that's provided to the county as part of this right of first refusal offer, and the county law requires that we cannot disclose that information during the right of first refusal process. Now, if you look at the next slide, the slide up here, they're very important. The law is very specific about specific dates that are applied to this program. So within 5 days after the execution of a sales contract, the property seller must offer the contract to the county to match. Then it's also at the same time sent to HOC and the residents. Within 45 days after that offer, if the tenants have the opportunity to organize and be a certified tenant association, and they would have to make their offer by then, right? They just have to be exercised. Yeah.
Now, that does not happen very often here in Montgomery
Correct,
County,
it
is that
doesn't.
right? Has it ever happened?
Have we ever had a tenant purchase?
We've had tenants certified, we have not had a tenant
Tenant
purchase
purchase.
that I know of.
Right.
It happened, it's happening a bit in DC.
It does, and we've analyzed this at various points. Condominiums and cooperatives are difficult, because that's what it would end up being. A tenants association would purchase it and convert it to a condo. Condo market's very soft these days, of course. So so it's difficult. It's a difficult mechanism to achieve.
Now, if I just can add one thing, in DC, the tenants can delegate their right to a developer or assign their right. Here in Montgomery County, the tenants cannot assign their right, so it's difficult for them to put together all the financing within the stipulated time period.
They could pull together a partner that would help the tenants purchase the property, but they're not allowed to say, we don't like this contract purchaser, we'd rather give it to another one. So within 60 days, DHCA or HOC must exercise our right of first refusal, and we exercise it by offering a new contract that takes the place of the previous contract. Tenants do have up to 90 days to exercise their right. If we do exercise our right, DHCA and HOC have up to 120 days after that to close on the property. So that means from the date we get the offer to the day we must close is 60 days plus 120 days or 180 days total. It's very fast. It means a lot of due diligence must occur very quickly. As I said at the beginning, the initial analysis we do when a project comes through is this a property that is where we need to preserve the affordable housing that's there, and is the right of first refusal the only way to protect the tenants there? There are limits on the right of first refusal requirements. These are listed here. There are some things that are not an acquisition. Recently, we had a 7-year lease come through, and that's not defined as a sale. That's a short-term lease. Interestingly enough, when a property transfers interest of the property, sometimes a sale isn't a deed transferring, it's interest transferring. And so if a majority interest of the property transfer, that would trigger the right of first refusal. And we do get those occasionally that are really a matter of refinancing and restructuring within the ownership. They still have to present those to us. The good thing about that is it prevents owners from circumventing the right of first refusal by just changing owners. We consider that to be a sale, and it would be triggered. So we list out here, just because they're important, some of the definitions. So on people, it's very clear what a certified tenant is, tenant association is. The concept here, the one important term on this page is the certificate of compliance. An owner cannot sell their property, and a closing cannot be completed unless they have a certificate of compliance. So for every sale of every multifamily property in Montgomery County with more than 4 units, we have to provide to that seller a certificate of compliance, so they have complied with the right of first refusal law. We have not exercised our right, and then the sale can go through. So it is one that keeps our staff very, very busy, as you can imagine, and our great county attorney is also very busy with these as well. Do you want to go through there? No? Oh, thanks. Anyway, so like I said, when we get a right of first refusal package in, we really look at, as Lawrence likes to say, the 5 Ps of a property, which is what would be the purpose of a public purchase of this? What would we be achieving that can't be met otherwise? Are we looking to preserve units that are at risk of loss, that have existing financing on them? Are we looking at units that are currently providing market rate affordable housing on a property? Are there tenants that are at risk there? And of course we have to look at, can we really accomplish it? We look at the property itself. Are there important factors of their property? Is this in a unique location, in an essential location? And of course, we have to look at the price. A property that comes through that's, a $60 million property, it will be, of course, quite difficult for us as the county to purchase it. HOC has significant resources and is able to purchase properties with a much higher price tag, but it's very difficult for the county to do those. Not impossible, but difficult. We also, Montgomery County as an entity, we are not in the business of owning and operating rental housing. We do own and operate special needs housing such as homeless shelters, things like that, but we don't own and operate housing. So if we exercise a right of first refusal, we look for a partner to work with that. So we will acquire the property and then sell it to a partner. Either it can be HOC, or if we've exercised the right and then we choose HOC to purchase a property, it can be HOC purchasing it directly. It can be us buying it and selling it to a nonprofit, and we have done that over the years. We do provide some statistics here on the next page of some of the ROFRs. And what we mean here is that in the first block that we've seen 184 properties come through the county. So it's a right of first refusal.
That means we had the right, not that we exercised.
Correct.
the
So
right.
these are just how many came across our desk.
This is just getting the notice.
Exactly, okay.
Yeah. These represented, as you can see, a variety of different number of properties each year. They translate into different size properties, obviously, and then the total amount is the total value of all the contracts that were represented by all these deals. But we have taken action over the years. We have, if you look at the next slide, you'll see we have occasionally acquired properties. We have an owner, instead of or in lieu of going through the being required to offer the property to us, can offer instead an agreement not to convert, meaning that they would keep. You tell.
An agreement not to convert is included in the law for owners to do. And essentially, it's a 5-year vehicle where the owner agrees to keep rent stable for all residents for 3 years, not increasing the rents over the voluntary rent guidelines that are published every year for the first 3 for all residents. And on the last 2 years of the 5-year agreement, he identifies low and moderate income residents, and those residents are held, their rents are held to the voluntary rent guidelines.
So help me understand this. A building is on the market. Someone bids on it. The county's notified.
Yes.
And you step in and say, we want to buy it. And then the seller says, or the contract purchaser, I guess. You can keep your mic on because I do.
That's the next box. This one is different.
But where do you get these?
Rental agreements. That's next. So the agreement to convert
Okay, he was
is
jumping.
different.
You jumped to the rental
no,
agreement.
it's
About the agreement not to convert.
Right.
And the rental agreement is a voluntary act. An agreement not to convert is an agreement specified in Chapter 53A, that if you wanted to sell your property and said, I don't feel like going through this time frame, I can offer the county an agreement not to convert, which meets the requirements defined in the law.
In order to keep them at bay, in order for the
Right.
county not to buy the property.
Right, or the county don't have to review it. Now, the county at its sole discretion can say, I will entertain this or not entertain it. It's not a mandate or mandatory action. The county has the discretion to say, no, we don't want to enter into agreement not to convert, because it is an agreement. So if we say we choose not to, we choose not to. But he can often say, I would like to accelerate my process. Often, probably we've done the two that you probably have seen, we've done with HOC when they were doing their RAD properties. Yeah. And the other was a small owner of a property. He had a 12-unit property. He was in Tacoma, I believe. He said, can I just move through this? He knew that we didn't want to purchase the property. He wanted to truncate the process essentially.
Okay.
So, Mr. Reamer, the process you're talking about is the next block there where we've executed rental agreements, where as Lauren said, it's a voluntary process where we negotiate with the contract purchaser on mechanisms and opportunities to protect the existing tenants at the property. And there are a variety of different ways that can occur. We will do an agreement with the owner, the contract purchaser who becomes the owner, that limits rent increases on certain percentages of the tenants, may reduce rents on some of the units, and we'll do that by providing some funding or a pilot, something to make that work. And we'll look at, really, this is really a vehicle for protecting existing tenants at a property. It is, to be honest, a quite cost-effective way. These will be for 5 to 7 to 10 years, but they're cost-effective because we don't have to buy the property. We don't have to finance the whole acquisition. But at the same time, we're doing some very important preservation and protection of tenants in that way. Yes.
I think you look at the ROFR action summary and you see the tools that are there. There's the acquisition. We can always buy a property if you choose to. And the key point about purchasing a property is that the county, when it exercises its right, the county must purchase the property. That has been the opinion of the county attorney. You can do an agreement not to convert. Those are rare.
Sorry, could you repeat that? It's the opinion of the county attorney.
Attorney that
must purchase when?
When the county exercises its right. We only have the authority to assign our right to HOC. We cannot assign our right outside of HOC because they are listed in the law.
We must purchase
the county
property.
can't, for example, assign its right to like MHP, right? So if HOC wants to exercise its right, it does that directly. If the county exercises its right, the county has to make
Purchase the property.
and then they can.
Then I can
transfer it.
transfer the property.
Right, but so what I don't understand, HOC already has the right to do it on their own. So what benefit are we providing if our right of first refusal is tied to HOC, which already has, if that's the only assignment we're allowed to do?
So we will buy a property and sell it pretty much at the table to a nonprofit that we've identified.
It has to be a sale, not a assignment.
That's
Right.
correct.
And sometimes we assign, you have to look at this as a cooperative process. In one of the examples you will see, the county and HOC agreed on the preservation of a property. HOC said, we'll need X days to get the capital in order, but we have to take it to our commission. We agree that we're going to work together on this.
The county steps in, floats it, and it's just a timing.
It's a timing
process issue before HOC is in a position to deploy the capital.
Right.
We step in, we're basically a
exercise the right.
placeholder,
Right.
exercise the right, and they step in once they get their formal approvals.
Right. That's exactly how it worked.
Okay, could you sorry, on this, on the 8, because this raised a question for me from the previous, on the 8 acquisitions that are in the chart between 2015 and 19, how many of those were HOC involved, and how many of those did we sell to a nonprofit?
I would say they were equal amounts. We did
About 4 of each?
4 of each.
Oh, yeah, 3 and 1.
4 of
Yep.
each. Off the top of my head, I can tell you about 4 each because I know that we did 3 with HOC on the Willows, and HOC purchased Cider Mill, and we did National Center for Children and Families for 2 properties, and National and MCCH for 2 properties. Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless.
Who are here representing.
Yes, sorry.
Which we appreciate.
So you'll see a chart here that says no action because the property's at MPDUs. This is just.
Hold on one thing. And it's the size of those transactions. HOC exercised their own right on our $153 million property. The 3 that the county partnered with HOC totaled $50 million, with HOC probably raising about $30 million of that capital in a traditional mortgage and first mortgage. The ones that we did with the 2 homeless housing advocates, the county purchased those properties and then transferred to them at the closing table and provided all of the financing for the rehab of those buildings so that they would remain affordable.
And is the main difference between the 4 HOC was involved in and the other 4 that the 4 that HOC was involved in were much more expensive? And they have
Always.
much more capacity?
Yes.
It makes sense, right?
It makes
a
sense,
nonprofit
right.
lacks
Right.
the equity
And-
that HOC or that a for-profit developer would likely have.
Because of the
Right.
short time period,
And
especially.
Right, 'cause
understand.
you have to put capital together in a few months. I mean, that's
Well, and-
very difficult.
And understand, we are interacting with an executed contract. The other thing that I would, as you are interested in the acquisitions, I would draw your attention to the capital improvements, capital investments with regulatory agreements. That is probably the tool that goes probably most unstated, where we will entertain and interact with a private developer to say, hey, we're interested in this property. What can we do here to encourage or maintain affordability? So we invest money. The county has the resource to invest flexible financing. Often in some of these transactions, we can invest money at cheaper than market rates that impacts the capital stack and get repaid and preserve affordable housing.
And is that, the ones that are listed here only related to ROFR opportunities, or, that's something we could do in any circumstance.
you do
where
that-
We're basically buying down the capital or providing cheap financing to create a capital stack that makes an affordable housing project work. I mean, that's,
Yes.
seems to be the business that you're in on a daily basis.
So
I mean,
yes, these are only the ones that are ROFR related. We've
or-
done
here,
that
but you do it on
other-
obviously a lot more
Yes.
properties than the ones that are listed
and of
here.
the 8, 4 were probably done with, 2 were done with nonprofits off the top of my head. Probably 4 were done with for-profits. I think it's an even split. I have to go back and look at the hard data, but I think we're about an even split of nonprofit and for-profits. No, it's even, because we did the 3 at,
I'll close my
Field.
questions on this, and I know the chair, I'm sure, has a lot more questions than I have, but
Fortunately not, actually.
the second, third, and fourth items here on the chart, on the top line, the executed agreements, the executed rental agreements, the no action, it seems like a really cheap way to preserve a lot of affordable housing. I'd love to see and figure out and talk through opportunities to drastically increase the number of opportunities that are there. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how we do that, but it seems like, bang for not a lot of bucks with limited resources. Those options are best case scenario. And, as we're looking at this, we should, I'd love to hear ideas, opportunities related to, I think that's less of a money question than, how do we do this differently? How do we do this better? What are best practices other places? But, I mean,
But
They're
if you
still
give-
using the HIF, though.
Well, I would just say this on a rental agreement. Rental agreements are like a really good tool, unless it's a property where you actually think you want to permanently preserve it, because the rental agreement will end, and then you'll still be back, like, how do we preserve it again? So it does take some analysis of, is this a property where it's a good idea to get rent controls for 5 years or 10 years because of the condition of the property, or, some other piece of your analysis. But if you were looking at a property and you thought, like, we really want to get this property under the permanent control of HOC or a housing partner, then you would want to exercise right of first refusal.
yeah, I mean, I understand that. I think I'm just trying to point out the fact that, whether we're talking about $10 million or $20 million, in the context of right of first refusal, I mean, we're talking about a really small amount of money in the scheme of huge need. I mean, you're talking about 1, 2, 3 projects that you could possibly do with that type of money if you're lucky, and that's assuming that all the other, that they could become available. That's assuming that the numbers pencil out, it makes sense, it meets all the other criteria that you have. These other things are opportunities that the bar is much lower and the cost is much lower, and
So that's the exact
part of this
analysis
is
we do.
also understanding the inventory. that comes in from the right of first refusal. You see properties all over the county. So is it, when you see we see 4-unit properties that may be located in Tacoma or more rent-restricted markets. There's no sense of investing in that property. You may see a property in another area of the county where the market rent is an affordable rent. That's what the market rent is. When you look at the rent guidelines that we have either established by the county or the existing rents are within that marketplace. So every property that comes in gets reviewed for, does this make sense? It's those that are at risk that we say we need to intervene. And sometimes it's easy as picking up a conversation, to your point, of having a conversation with the purchaser and saying, we're interested in this, what can we do to work together?
Okay, I fibbed slightly. I have one other question. If we were to increase the amount of money that was available to do this, which seems to me related to the prior conversation that we were having, at least the interest of the county executive, unless I'm not following bouncing ball very well, will we need additional staff to do that? I mean, because obviously you're already looking at everything that comes across your desk.
That's an operating budget question.
I understand, and I'm saying, so should we expect as part of this interest that the county executive plans to add staff capacity in order to achieve this?
I think the official answer is you'll have to wait to see the operating.
Under the operating where it comes out. So, but to answer your question, if
I'm asking a direct question then. I shouldn't speculate on what the county executive will or won't do in his submission on the 16th of March. But do you believe you have a department, your department has staff resources and staff capacity, would you need additional staff resources in order to execute a significantly larger fund related to preservation projects and right of first refusals?
Between opportunity fund and the right of first refusal, the short answer will be yes, it will add to the staff time. More staff support will be helpful. And to put everything in the right context, if you look at what we really go through in 2019, we looked at 48 transactions. On an average, $1.5 billion, business come through our doors. Whether we purchase it or we don't, we have to analyze these transactions. So it does take staff time.
Right, but I think there's a difference between doing what you're already doing and then moving towards the next level of staff time, which would be actually getting a deal done, which I imagine takes what is already a lot of staff time to a whole new level. And if you have a lot more, because if you're asking for more money in order to do this, at least it's apparent that you believe that there's a lot more need and that you'd be exercising a lot more deals. Is that accurate?
Assuming, let me answer your question this way. Depending upon what opportunity exists, because a lot of times, as you heard, the deals are so expensive or it doesn't make sense for us to even think about exercising our right of first refusal, interest in it, depending upon what deal is there. And if you look at the pipeline here, we have not exercised our right in very many cases during the last 5 years. So going forward, how that business may change, that remains to be seen. But if the business changes in a big way, and you're absolutely right, to take this to the next level, and if we look at other business that we'll be bringing to the agency, then it will need more staff time, then it may need more staffing resources, yes.
And can I just say, I think one of the things when you see the ones that are listed as a nonprofit purchase, they actually still get the notice of right of first refusal because something is for sale, but the staff time could potentially be different on how the closings and the financings have to occur. So DHCA working with a nonprofit up front, knowing that then the county will pass on its desire to purchase because they're already working with a partner, the partner may end up doing some of the work and you'd only have one closing and there'd be some advantages to that. So I think there are, even though we didn't we didn't acquire some of these using the partnership with a nonprofit partner, knowing that you're going to have a regulatory agreement about affordability and you're going to support them with some financing, is also, has a different kind of burden on DHCA staff.
I can explain some of the staff time that is taken for a right of first refusal, even if we don't purchase it. And that is, we do send a staff, we have a staff person that is our construction manager, and he goes out to visit almost every property that's offered to us. Even if we think we probably won't be acquiring that property or exercising our right, we still send him out there to look at it. And he's looking at things like, what's the condition of the property? Is there deferred maintenance? Confirming the age of the property, and confirming how the property has been owned. So that right there, with 48 times in the past year, this person's gone out in the field. So and then Lawrence takes that information and analyzes, and then we also look at the rent roll that's provided to us with each offering. And we look at how this property fits within the community and the need of, and how the affordable housing that the property may be providing now, either market rate housing or income restricted, and how it fits within the community. The staff does an excellent job of doing that in a very tight time frame. Could extra staff help, as Asim said? Of course, always. So.
All right.
So we have two examples. We've been asked to provide some examples. We have two examples that we can give you here.
I'll do these. 126 and 128 Lee Avenue represent a rare vacant building opportunity that's in Montgomery County.
Isn't this Tacoma Park?
This was Tacoma Park, yes, sir. There were 2 6-unit buildings that were vacant that the county exercised its right to purchase, went and did all the presentations before the county, before the city of Tacoma Park Council. But when we exercised our right, and I think the key thing is that on day 60, when we exercise our right, we know what we're doing before that. We knew and had discussed with the Montgomery County Coalition of the Homeless, would you be interested in owning these 2 buildings and operating them for housing? And our requirement there was that, as you can see on the chart to your lower right, 6 of the units remain for housing for persons at risk of homelessness or homeless. 3 were for persons 60 to 80, and 3 were 80%, capped at market rate or 80%. The county purchased this property and immediately transferred it to Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless at the closing table. The other one were 3 senior buildings that were financed with low-income housing tax credits that had completed their initial 15-year federal requirement of maintaining the tax credits, where the owner was selling them to a knowledgeable tax credit purchaser, but in this sale, there was room to move the rents $150 to $200 per month per unit. In our discussions with the purchaser, they were locked into their concept, and these were well knowledgeable and invested purchasers. National firms, if I called their name, you would recognize some of them. And so I got on the phone with HOC and said, what can we do to preserve these buildings at these prices? HOC and I agreed that we would exercise our right. They would do financing if we could help them with some of the gap financing at this. We see offers from all over the country on all of these properties. The county receives offers that sometimes we are astonished at the prices that they're getting.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to understand on this. So we needed $9.6 million available in cash in order to make this deal that we're looking at, the Willows, work. Is that right?
We needed,
and HOC covered $49 million deal. HOC covered 80. We covered 20.
we actually put in, we put in a little more than 9, but yes. We
9.6, give or take 9.6 million, which is give or take 20% of 49. You know, I'm not that great at math, but good enough to, I'm just trying to understand the order of magnitudes. I just want to point out, we're talking about $10 million in a fund, that's this deal a year.
Right.
So,
I just think it's important
The
to.
county funding
These were three
source that was
individual
used.
properties, but three deals like this, yes.
Yeah, and I was going to ask the same question. And what was the source that we used previously? Does this come out of the HIF? Did
yes,
this?
yes.
Housing CIP. And we
So
used
this was
to have-
capital money that was
This was
used for this.
capital money because these
this-
properties, while they were at the end of these properties weren't exactly at the end, they were in year 13 of a 15-year compliance. At year 15, when they're out of their federal compliance, our goal is and our agreement with HOC is to recapitalize these properties and repay us back what portion of the money that can be paid from a recapitalization.
So, and can you just explain, because I'm still trying to understand this. So what would have been the difference if HOC had just exercised this and we had just used the HIF through a traditional financing
It wouldn't have
model
been
to
a
capital
difference,
stack?
but HOC, it's the clock. You have to make your decision.
But we don't
on
need
it.
cash for the clock, do we?
You only
We need
cash
to
you need for
exercise
the
our
clock
right.
is the deposit.
And
Which is how
sometimes
much?
the deposit can
The-
be $1 million on
The
a deal.
deposit could be, on these properties, they were probably somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000 apiece. But you have to post a deposit with your contract. When we exercise, we post a contract that the county attorney has reviewed, and we post a deposit, because we are stepping into that contract.
When we exercise our right of first refusal, one sentence that Lawrence said I think is important is that we believe that on day 60, when we exercise our right, we have to know 100% how we're going to pay for that property. Even though it's 90 days later, we have to know, 60 days later, sorry, we have to know how we're going to pay for it. And we need to have that money locked up. HOC has, well, they had to go to their commission and confirm it. They did have some discussions ahead of time in private session to discuss it. They have lines of credit and other mechanisms, so they knew they had the money in place. On the Lee Avenue properties, we knew we had enough money in the Housing Initiative Fund to finance 100% of that acquisition.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot to process here, and I know we're going to take up these issues at a later date to figure out what we're going to do, and obviously there's capital budget implications. We're going to have to figure out the operating budget implications. There's lots to weed through, but I do think, in terms of bang for our buck to meet the magnitude of the housing need, I do have to think through the question of $9.6 million in capital leverage dollars, where we're leveraging a lot more than using cash. And I think, and what cash is needed, how much that costs, what's the best bang for the buck? I mean, I think that there are some big questions here
exactly. The
that I don't
point
want to
is-
raise. I just want to introduce the concept that we have a lot to talk about and think about
When we
as
do
a committee.
gap financing, we're leveraging, 9 to 1, 10 to 1.
Well, the ones with the MCCH were special needs housing, and often we're more than 75% of the financing of those type of deals. When we look at these deals, we do look for cost-effective ways of achieving the goals, and that's when we do the rental agreements or the other type of regulatory agreements with the contract purchasers. They have to be willing contract purchasers.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you all do everything within your power, and I think HOC does the same thing, of figuring out what is the smartest, most creative, most cost-effective way within the existing resources that you have to achieve your goals. I think we have to make a decision as policymakers of what are the funds and pots available, and what are the focuses of those funds and the restrictions of those funds, and what's most appropriate, and how should it be leveraged, and how we position you in order to meet the county's needs and the county's priorities. And I think that's has nothing to do with confidence in your ability to take what you have and push it as best as you can to meet the needs. It's a question of what tools do we provide you in the first place so that you can best execute what you want to do.
Part of the point I was trying to make, though, was that in every one of these deals, it depends on the willingness of the contract purchaser to either work with us or not work with us. And as Lawrence said, on the Willows deals, we knew that the structure of the financing of the contract purchaser was such that they had to increase the rents a minimum of 10% on elderly residents at 30% of area median income and 40% of area median income. And we just knew that we could not let that happen. And so that's why in an opportunity like that, we just felt it was important. So that's one very important element of the discussion.
Thank you.
There's additional slides that provide some very detailed information about Chapter 53 that you can read at your leisure if you need something to help you go to sleep one night. So we have this overview was helpful. As you mentioned, we can be glad to meet with you, give you detailed explanations or background information on any deal.
All right. That's a very helpful presentation. We've got, I'm guessing we'll have multiple sessions over the course of this winter and spring to talk about housing finance. So
great.
we just barely got into it today. We got a lot more to do. But this was a good background for us about right of first refusal, and we got a cursory discussion on the Opportunity Fund, and we talked about the Affordable Housing Acquisition Preservation Fund. Linda.
We have a supplemental. There's one last item. It's
That's right.
$229,000 supplemental appropriation for the current year for the CIP fund, and it just gives them the appropriation they need for the money they have. Yeah.
All right. I think without objection now.
Without objection. Okay.
All right. Thank you for the discussion. To be continued.
Thanks.